Chapter 151. New York. The moment Moon eliminated the Chita commander, all the invading Chita soldiers lost their ability to move and fell to the ground like puppets. They all stopped. Clint, who was standing on a high place and shooting arrows with a bow, was the first to notice the abnormality of the Chita soldiers around him. Tony also discovered through Jarvis's testing that all these Chita soldiers had lost their vital signs. They were killed together at the same time. This situation made Tony feel incredible. These wantonly destructive invaders were obviously living beings, but now they all fell to the ground like robots that had run out of energy. Could it be? Everyone looked up at the portal in the air. Since there was no problem on their side, the problem must be on the other side of the portal. They all saw Moon rushing through the portal. Perhaps the current situation in New York was caused by Moon's actions on the other side of the portal. Under the gaze of everyone, the electric net surrounding the portal gradually disappeared, and things on the other side of the portal occasionally passed through the portal and fell down. At the beginning, there were some small things, including the wreckage of the Chita and their technological weapons and equipment. But as time went on, more and more things flew out of the portal. Jingle bell! Countless crystal fragments fell from the sky, sparkling continuously under the sunlight. Everybody be safe and get rid of all these things! Steve shouted. Although the sky looked very beautiful at this time, they all knew the dangers hidden behind these beautiful views. This is not space. On Earth, we are subject to the influence of gravity. These seemingly beautiful things falling from the sky will cause great damage to the ground. The problem with Stark Tower is particularly prominent. After all, the portal is located above Stark Tower. Under Steve's command, everyone took action. Hulk jumped suddenly and rushed directly into the falling crystal fragments, punching some of the larger fragments hard. Boom! The crystal fragments exploded instantly, turning into countless dust like grains floating in the air. After a circle, Hulk punched again, hitting another piece of crystal fragment, smashing it into pieces again. After destroying all the crystal fragments around him, Hulk did not stop his action. He slapped the place where the crystal fragments were most densely packed with his hands. Boom! A strong impact burst out from his hands and blasted towards the crystal fragments. Wow! The powerful impact directly shattered all the crystalline fragments that passed by, turning them into fine grains that scattered in the air. While Hulk was attacking, Tony also ordered Jarvis to control all the iron suits to attack the falling crystal fragments. Thor, come to me in my suits. Hearing Tony's request, Thor, who was using lightning to destroy the crystal fragments, did not hesitate at all. A powerful lightning bolt burst out directly from Mjolnir and hit all the iron suits including Tony. With Thor's support, Tony unleashed the attack capabilities of all his armors, and yellow beams burst out from them. It was like a huge bird cage, wrapping up the portal and continuously attacking all the crystal fragments and various debris. But no matter how they attacked, the debris falling from the portal did not decrease, but instead increased. Wait! That's... A huge crystal suddenly emerged from the portal. The crystal looked very intact, and inside the crystal, one could see some lifelike Chitauri. Damn it! Although this thing gives people a very amazing feeling, if it falls from such a high place, the Stark Tower will be destroyed. Looks like we can start cleaning here. Moon's voice rang out in their communicator, and everyone realized that this object, which had completely separated from the giant crystal, did not destroy the Stark Tower as they had expected, but instead fell from the air at a very slow speed. Tony and Thor flew up to the sky to check out the scene out of curiosity. After passing over the huge crystal, they saw 6 warships descending from the sky with the huge crystal. That's what you went there for? Looking at these warships, Tony asked in surprise. He knew very well that these warships had become Moon End's spoils of war, otherwise Moon End's voice would not have been so relaxed. But how did Moon End do it? He faced the entire Chita army alone, and not only did he prevent any Chita from rushing into the earth again, he also wiped out all of the Chita army. They even brought back a huge craft and several huge warships. Of course, today is Bucky's wedding day after all, I have to give him some presents, right? As he spoke, Moon End walked out of the central battleship, stood on it with his arms open, and showed off loudly to Tony and the others. What do you think of my gift? These words left everyone speechless. Even Fury, who was arguing with the directors on the aerospace carrier, couldn't help but twitch his lips. Whether it is the huge Chita crystal or those warships and spaceships, they are definitely top-notch gifts. After all, no matter who gets married on the entire Earth, no one has ever received a space battleship as their wedding gift. Director Fury, we can let go of what happened just now, but these warships and spacecraft must be taken over by the Council. A blonde woman's eyes lit up. If these warships were controlled, her country would become more powerful and have more say. I'm sorry, that's not my subordinate. Fury did not agree to the director's request. He might be able to discuss it with other people, but he really didn't have the courage to deal with Mu-En. You should know that more than 10 years ago, when Moon was still unable to fly, he had already cooperated with Carol to force back the Kree fleet. Now that the opponent's strength has obviously improved, and he has also mastered the ability to fly, he cannot guarantee what kind of enemy the Earth will encounter if he annoys Mu-En. After all, Mu-En's strength has been demonstrated just now. The huge Chita crystal and these warships are the best proof. You. Ahem. Just as the blonde female director was about to lose her temper, a black-haired Asian man interrupted her. Director Fury, I know what you are worried about. Facing such a strong man, we do need to be cautious. Chapter 152. The wedding continue. Fury couldn't refuse the requests of several directors. The development of S.H.I.E.L.D. requires the support of these countries. If he continues to refuse, it will really anger these directors. I'll go talk to him, but I can't guarantee he'll be willing to trade. After giving a few directors a heads up, Fury turned and looked at his adjutant Hill behind him. Prepare the wedding gifts. We have to be present at the wedding today. After the huge crystal fell to the ground shook slightly, and everyone saw Mu-En walking down from the warship, as well as several dazed Chita people. You can go die. Mu-En raised his hand and waved it. The Mind Scepter shot out several beams of energy, directly killing several Chita people. After completing these things, he looked up at the portal device on Stark Tower. He had already got what he wanted, and now the portal could be closed. I saw energy lingering around his body, flying towards the portal device on Stark Tower. Tony was not too surprised that Mu-En could fly. After all, the power that Mu-En had displayed before was not something that an ordinary human could master. Compared to the powerful forces that Mu-En possessed, just flying was not enough to shock him to the point of being speechless. What he really wanted to know was where did this powerful force that Mu-En possessed come from. Following Mu-En to the top of the building, the transmission device was still running non-stop, and Professor Shavig, who had been knocked unconscious before, also woke up slowly. Done, now we can turn this thing off. Use Loki's scepter. I left a safety precaution when I made this thing. You can use his scepter to break through the energy field. Professor Shavig reminded. But Mu-En did not follow his instructions and use the Mind Scepter to open it, so the energy shield could not stop him. Under the shocked gaze of Xavier and Tony, Moon reached out and grabbed the cosmic cube and removed it from the transporter. This. The two scientists were stunned, especially Tony, who was very aware of the effects of energy positions. That energy stance is definitely not so easy to break through, according to the calculation feedback given by Jarvis. Even using the Mind Scepter to shut down the teleportation device would require considerable strength. But what was going on with Mu-En? He did not encounter any obstacles and directly dismantled the cosmic cube, which was the core energy source of the transmission device, with his bare hands. Well, this thing is not as difficult as you think. After saying that, a portal wrapped in clouds and mist appeared behind him. Let's go down, Bucky's big wedding is about to start. Taking Professor Shavig through the portal, we returned to the ground. At this moment, everyone was observing the huge Chita crystal in front of them. They could see clearly that this crystal was like amber, freezing all the Chita people in place. I say, are you guys going to stay here until the end of the wedding? Of course not. Bucky shook his head. As the protagonist of the wedding, he was most anxious about his own wedding. But given the situation today, can his wedding with Chris really go ahead? Seeing Bucky hesitate, Steve walked up and patted his iron arm. Don't worry, your wedding will go on as usual. Yes, Pepper has returned with Chris, and I will broadcast your wedding live to the whole world later. Tony took back the nanosuit and said. Seeing that everyone still wanted to attend his wedding, Bucky smiled. Soon, everyone had changed their clothes and were heading towards Bucky's wedding church. And above their heads, 6 warships were floating in the air. These warships were all driven by Jarvis in an iron suit, and they were moving towards the church aggressively. Finally they arrived at the church. The church had not been destroyed by the invasion of the Chita people and was still solemn and dignified. The priest who presided over the wedding, upon hearing the news that the Chita people had been completely wiped out, began to make the sign of the cross on his chest repeatedly. I kept thanking the Lord and thanking God. But when he saw the person getting married today and the guests attending the wedding, he couldn't help but get excited. He knew very well who these people were. He had watched the alien invasion every moment. The protagonist of the movie, Bucky, is the tough guy in the news who killed the alien invader with one punch using his steel arm. And the man next to him is the famous super-rich Tony Stark, Mr. Iron Man of New York City. The wedding went on as usual, and the priest looked at the two people who were about to get married. One was the tough guy he saw on TV, and the other was a beautiful woman. They looked like a perfect match. Of course, the groomsmen and bridesmaids behind them are obviously more eye-catching. As the boss of Stark Industries, Tony and CEO Pepper were among them. Countless media were summoned to take pictures frantically and speculate on the relationship between them. After all, Bucky and Chris were unknown in the past, but when they got married, Tony and Pepper not only showed up, but also attended as best men and bridesmaids. This is not like Tony's usual style. At a wedding like this, it was already a great honor for him to attend, not to mention attending as a best man like he is now. Amidst the constant speculation in the media, the wedding was presided over by the priest and ended with the couple kissing each other. The next step was to present the wedding gifts. Steve was already prepared. After learning that Bucky was going to get married, he started preparing gifts. He gave them 2 specially customized watches with photos of Bucky and Chris on the dials. This was the best gift he could give. Others also had their own preparations. Some gave pianos, some gave jewelry, and there were so many different things that people were overwhelmed. Finally it was Tony's turn, and the gift he gave was 2 bracelets. This is no simple item. The bracelet was specially made by him, and even used a lot of nanotechnology, which can protect the lives of 2 people. Bucky was a little surprised by Tony's gift, but he was more grateful. They don't know what they will encounter in the future. With this bracelet, Chris's life safety will be greatly guaranteed. After Bucky put the bracelet on Chris, Moon came up with a smile. You heard what I said not long ago. You can pick any of the warships outside except for the biggest surprise. This statement caused an uproar among the people in the church, as they all saw several warships floating in the air. It turned out that all those warships belonged to Mun. They knew without even having to think about the warships that were full of alien technology that they were spoils of war obtained from aliens who were planning to invade the Earth. Many media ran out of the church and kept taking pictures of the warship in the sky. Bucky held Chris's hand and walked outside. Since Moon said so, he wouldn't be polite. Chapter 153. Conditions of the transaction. Looking at the battleships above their heads, Bucky and Chris discussed it and chose the battleship on the far right. These warships are almost identical, and the effect will be the same no matter which one you choose. After he made his choice, a car suddenly stopped in front of them. Fury got out of the car, looked at Bucky and said, "You came uninvited. Consider this car a gift from me to you and your wife. This car doesn't look that amazing, it's just an ordinary vehicle for transportation. But in fact, this car was specially modified by Fury. It has extremely strong protective capabilities and can provide good safety protection for passengers in the car even in the face of high-intensity attacks. Compared to the battleship sent by Moon, his vehicle was not good enough." The media ignored the car and kept taking pictures of the battleship selected by Bucky. But Fury didn't care much. He had no intention of attracting everyone's attention. He came to find Mun. After all, he had to try his best to meet the requests of those directors. Although the directors had beautiful ideas that every country would get a battleship, such a good thing would never happen in this world. What he had in mind was a battleship, and eventually countries would join together to conduct research. "There are things I need to talk to you about." "What's the matter?" Mun asked. What did this bald guy want from him? Hearing Mun's question, Fury did not beat around the bush and asked directly, "Do you still need these warships?" Mun looked at the warships in the sky. In addition to the battleship given to Bucky, there were 5 other warships. He planned to convert the command ship into a railcar, so only 4 warships were left. "Are you interested in these warships?" Mun asked with a raised eyebrow. He was a little surprised that Fury was interested in warships. As a person who could fly into space at any time, it would be too easy for Fury to build a small warship. The Skrulls and Howard who rely on Marwell's laboratory are not vegetarians. For them, as long as there are enough resources, they can easily build small warships. Although these warships belonging to the Chita people are good, they are not enough to make Fury so eager to take all of them. Muen's question made Fury feel a little helpless, and he and Muen walked towards a more secluded place nearby. The directors of S.H.I.E.L.D. asked me to confiscate all these warships, but I refused and told them the price of angering you. But they made a new request. They asked me to negotiate with you and wanted to trade these warships. Fury spoke in a casual tone as he spoke, and he didn't seem to be in the mood to negotiate at all. But Muen smiled thoughtfully. He really didn't need all the warships. In addition to the battleship given to Buggy, there were still 4 idle warships that needed to be dealt with. These warships are of little use to him, but they allow Tony to conduct research and develop new technologies to advance the development of Stark Industries. After all, he still has shares in Stark Industries. Although he doesn't have much to spend the money on, he can strengthen Stark Industries and make his wealth even more abundant. However, it would not be so easy to complete the transaction. He was not from a charity foundation. No matter who was behind the board of directors, they had to pay a sufficient price. Want to trade these warships? Muen nodded gently. Okay, but they have to give me what I want. He didn't believe that the countries in this world had no hidden means. Just like the mutant world, on the surface the government and the mutants were on good terms, but secretly they were constantly developing sentinel robots, which eventually forced Charles and his team to go back to the past to reverse the future. Although it is also related to the huge gap between mutants and humans, in this Avengers world, no matter how much Tony and his friends help others, they are still an unstable factor for the government. No one would allow so many unstable factors to appear around them. Even if they don't say anything on the surface, they will never stop studying them in secret. These studies might be useful to him, so he would never give up. As for whether they will fool themselves with some rubbish research, it is not up to them to decide. If they were unwilling to come up with some important research, he wouldn't mind sending the battleship to Marwell's laboratory to expand that huge survival base. What do you need? I'll help you convey it. Although Fury was surprised by Moon's cooperation, he still asked very calmly. If you want a battleship, exchange it for their special research and the resources I want to treasure. These words made Fury slightly stunned. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. for such a long time, he naturally understood what Moon meant, but would those directors really agree? He was well aware that various countries were secretly conducting research on this superpower. After all, Captain America and Red Skull were the most famous enhanced humans. Although people like Hulk are out of control, they have extremely strong fighting power. The military had previously used Hulk's blood to create a very stable yellow giant, Abomination. If Abomination had not disobeyed the military's orders and wreaked havoc in the city, and even wanted to kill Hulk, the military would have probably already built an army based on the Hulk. And this is just the military's own action. The government also has many secret laboratories conducting research on super-powered people. Moreover, Tony's performance also gave the government new ideas, and they began to increase their efforts in the development of various high-tech technologies. Now Moon is asking countries to exchange their research and resources for warships, which is tantamount to challenging the governments of various countries. I'll go back and think about it. You guys really know how to give me a hard time. Fury was having a headache now. He had foreseen the expressions of those directors, but as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. directly under the board of directors, he had to face them. But it's also good news. At least you are willing to trade. Oh, I forgot to tell you that only 3 of these battleships in the sky will be traded. Moon smiled and looked at the battleships in the sky. I will keep the largest one for future use, and the other 2, one is for Bucky as a wedding gift, and the other is for Tony to study. As soon as these words came out, Fury's eye twitched violently. If Moon only traded 1 warship, or 5 warships, it would be easier for him to handle. But now, Moon gave 3 warships, a number that was neither too high nor too low. The 3 warships were handed over to the council. He didn't need to think about what actions the council would take. He could already foresee the storm that was about to come. You really know how to give me a hard time. Fury shook his head and turned to leave the wedding chapel. Next he has to deal with the directors. He hopes that these directors can stay rational and not do anything stupid. Otherwise, he could not guarantee what actions those warships would take under Moon's command. Chapter 154, Hard Glass Crystal. Bucky's grand wedding is over, but his wedding has become a topic of conversation all over the world. Whether it is the aliens that invaded New York, the huge warships, or even the huge Chita crystal placed in Times Square, they have become the subject of discussion around the world. The invading Churitas have been recovered by S.H.I.E.L.D., and the warships have been sent into space. The only thing that people all over the world can get close to now is the huge crystal that contains countless Chitauri. The crystal was so huge that it looked like a small mountain when placed in Times Square. Faced with the Chitauri in the crystal, countless people had evil thoughts and brought various tools to open the crystal and obtain the alien item sealed inside. However, as a crystal created by Gara Glass Lady, it is absolutely impossible to open this huge crystal unless these people use weapons that are as powerful as the Chitauri naval cannons. Many people returned empty-handed. They spent a lot of energy but failed to even break the crystal shell. This crystal is harder than any substance they know of. Some people even used large-scale construction machinery, but were unable to leave even the slightest trace on the crystal. This made Tony and others, who were originally a little worried, feel relieved and also aroused their interest. They also wanted to see what these crystals were like, as their hardness surpassed all the minerals they had seen. However, they were still stopped. After all, that was the crystal created by Muen, and his knowledge of crystals far exceeded everyone else. Although this crystal is made of colored glass, it is completely different from ordinary colored glass. If it were ordinary colored glass, even if it was broken, it would only break into a few pieces. Although the crystal he created is extremely hard, it will be destroyed if it is attacked violently. At that time, this hill-like Chita crystal will be directly shattered, causing devastating damage to the surrounding area. The reason why he brought back the Chita crystal was just to bring back the Chita technology contained in it. He had a way to take back the glass. Although they were stopped by Muen, everyone still wanted to take a closer look at the huge crystal. Muen did not stop everyone's request. Now that all the work had been done, he could just recycle the crystals. Coming to the crystal with everyone else, Muen walked towards the crystal while reminding everyone. Like I said before, you'd better not touch it, especially you two, Thor and Dr. Banner. Following the voice, Muen's arm became the arm of Gara Glass Lady. The moment he put his hand on the crystal, the huge crystal began to slowly descend. All the glass crystals seemed to have turned into liquid and kept flowing towards his arms. Those things up there should be exposed. Who of you can go up and take a look? At Moon's reminder, Tony's entire body was instantly covered with nano battlesuits. The thrusters under his feet and in his palms emitted a strong propulsion force, allowing Tony to fly into the sky. Just as Moon said, the Chitauri on top of the crystal were slowly revealing themselves, but they did not take any action. It was obvious that these Chita people were already dead, but their bodies appeared more lifelike under the protection of the crystals. Jarvis, notify Pepper and Happy to bring the engineering team from Stark Industries over here. There are a lot of things here. There are not only Chita soldiers here, but also a lot of Chita technological equipment. In addition to the energy spears and energy cannons they had seen before, there were also many weapons of various shapes and forms. Some of these equipment were very powerful at first glance. Now, Stark Industries has no shortage of research projects. Tony sighed and said that it would take a lot of time to study all these things clearly. Now Tony felt the heavy responsibility on his shoulders. After the Chitauri invasion, he began to think about the future of the Earth. Although the Earth is still led by the heads of state of various countries, he will not entrust the safety of his own life and the lives of those around him to others. Not to mention that the President of the United States is nothing but a puppet of capital. Placing hope on these people is nothing but wishful thinking. He has been thinking about the future, wanting to be prepared for such a situation to prevent another alien invasion. Now with Muen's warships and the technical equipment brought back, he could start to implement his ideas. Although he was very confident in his own technology, with the science and technology of the Chita people as a reference, he could develop it more quickly and create powerful technology for the Earth. As Liulai continued to descend, Pepper and Happy also brought people over. Seeing the shrinking Chirita crystal, the two were stunned at first, and then ran over with the Stark Industries engineering team. With the busy work of the engineering team, a large amount of contents from the Chita crystals were loaded onto trucks and driven towards Stark Industrial Park. These things will become Stark Industries research objects, contributing to the development of Stark Industries and the technological progress of the world. The situation here attracted the attention of countless people, and many media rushed over to interview Tony. After all, everyone in the world now knows that this huge crystal that looks like glass has a hardness beyond people's imagination. No matter what it is, it cannot leave a trace on it. But now, they actually saw Stark Industries vehicles constantly traveling back and forth near the Chirita crystal, and everything transported on the vehicles was taken out of the crystal. Ms. Potts, can you explain why Stark Industries can mine the alien objects inside this huge crystal? Ms. Potts, has Mr. Stark mastered alien technology? Ms. Potts, can you explain? Countless media reporters surrounded Pepper, and one question after another kept ringing in her ears. Such a scene was difficult for Pepper, who had attended countless media conferences, to cope with. Yes, I do have the relevant technology. Any other questions? Seeing that Pepper was having a hard time coping, Tony took back his nanosuit and came over to rescue Pepper. But his words were like a bolt from the blue to the ears of these media reporters. Their suspicions were true. Tony Stark had mastered alien technology. But when they wanted to continue the interview, they found that Tony had already left with Pepper, and in front of him stood Happy, Tony's bodyguard and security director of Stark Industries. I'm sorry, the boss has gone far away, and you can't go in here now. Happy laughed extremely happily. He really liked watching the gnashing of teeth on the faces of those guys who fabricated news. And those reporters were helpless, as their identities as reporters were of little use to Tony. Chapter 155. Directors dividing the battleship. As time passed, the last contents of the crystal were loaded onto a truck and transported to Stark Industrial Park. And in an instant, Mu-En took back all the glass crystals and put them back on Gara the Glass Lady. Although there are a huge number of glass crystals, after being taken back, they are all transformed into energy and integrated into the glass armor pieces on Gara Glass Lady, without causing any burden to the armor. After dealing with the mountain-like crystal, Mu-En turned to look at everyone. Seeing that you all wanted to try this glass crystal before, let's try it with this. As soon as he finished speaking, a long sword appeared in his hand. The entire sword was made of colored glaze and sparkled brightly under the sunlight. However, everyone could still feel the sharpness of the sword. Although it looked no different from ordinary glass, it gave people a feeling that it could cut everything. Is this the kind of crystal? Steve walked forward curiously and took the sword from Moon's hand. As a battle-hardened captain, he had used countless weapons and practiced some swordsmanship, but this sword gave him a different feeling from all the long swords he had used in the past. Although this sword looks very long, it is extremely light in the hand. Not to mention him, who has reached the pinnacle of human power, even a child can wield this sword easily. He swung the sword violently in an empty direction. The sword made a sharp sound of breaking through the air. The moment it touched the ground, it did not shatter like glass, but instead left a cut mark on the ground. This shocked everyone. They didn't expect that this almost transparent sword was sharper than a real sword. Let me try it. Clint walked up, and although he was most commonly used with the bow and arrow, he was actually also good with a sword. Steve's experience with the sword obviously made him excited. As a good swordsman, how could he give up this opportunity? Taking the sword from Steve's hand, Clint looked at the blade carefully. This almost transparent sword was perfect, more perfect than any sword he had ever used. Clint waved his hand and made a sword flower, carefully feeling the sensation brought by the glazed sword. This is truly a perfect weapon. As he spoke, Clint pulled the dagger from his leg and slashed at the blade of the long sword. Hey, when the two weapons collided, sparks flew out. Looking closely, the glazed sword was still as perfect as before, but there was a gap on his dagger. The sparks just now were from his dagger. This sword is sharper than I thought. Everyone was vying to experience the sword, while Mu-En received a call from Fury. Regarding the deal between you and the directors, I have already helped coordinate it. The directors have accepted your conditions, but they require the battleship to be delivered first. Send the warship first. Mu-En snorted coldly, do they take me for a fool? Send the warship first. No matter what they offer, I have to accept it. It seems that they don't have any intention of trading, so let's forget about this deal. He didn't lack these things. Since the other party didn't want to make a good deal, he simply gave up the idea and stopped trading with them. In S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury looked at the directors in the video without surprise. When these directors made this request, he already understood their thoughts. Although their methods are good, it depends on who they are used on. If it was Tony and the others, their methods might work. After all, everything about them has been known by the government, and they can be used to threaten them at a critical moment. But Moon is different. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been investigating for more than 10 years and still doesn't know Moon's true origins. Even if Bucky and the others are Moon's friends, it is impossible for them to obey. Moreover, based on his understanding of Mu-En's strength, No country can afford the cost of going to war with Mu-En. It is simply impossible for them to play tricks on Mu-En through word games. How dare he refuse? The blonde female director angrily slammed the table. Is he trying to threaten us? They chose to trade out of respect for Mu-En, otherwise they could have just forcibly collected the money. But the others remained silent and watched her performance quietly. After roaring for a while, the woman finally realized something was wrong and no one around supported her. Everyone looked at her mockingly, as if they were looking at an incompetent clown. You. Feeling the cold looks from everyone, the blonde woman realized that she was being fooled. What can I do if I threaten you? Mu-En's voice came from the communicator. These are my spoils of war. I can do whatever I want with them. He heard the woman's angry voice. Not to mention her alone, even if all the directors of S.H.I.E.L.D. started roaring, they would not be able to shake him at all. After hearing Mu-En's words, several directors were silent for a moment, and then the director of Tian Chao said. Mr. Mu-En, the Celestial Empire needs a warship. We can meet all your requirements, but we also have a request that we hope you can comply with. A director of the Celestial Empire, Mu-En was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that the person communicating with him was from China. But he quickly reacted and said to the other end of the phone. You sound very sincere. Tell me, what does the Celestial Empire want? I hope that after you obtain the Celestial Empire's technology, you can keep it secret and never let it leak out. The Celestial Dynasty director's request was simple. He did not ask for too much. He just wanted Mu-En to keep their technology confidential and not let it leak out. Okay, that's not much of a request. Mu-En agreed. After receiving Mu-En's reply, the Tian Chao director did not waste any more words and directly notified Tian Chao's operations department to prepare for the transfer of information and special resources. As long as the transaction is completed, the Celestial Empire will be able to obtain a warship from the Chita people. They can reverse engineer the technology on the warship to make the Celestial Empire's development faster. There are still two. Mu-En reminded the person on the other end of the phone, Fury, do they want anything else? If not, I'll hang up. As soon as he finished speaking, a voice came from the other end of the phone. The accent was obviously from Russia. The Russian Federation also wants one. Our technology and resources will definitely satisfy you, and our requirements are the same as those of the Celestial Empire. The same goes for America. The last America is coming. Everything you ask for will be in place, and the requirement is to keep our technology confidential. The other two directors spoke up one after another and got the remaining two warships, leaving the blonde woman and another director standing there in a daze. They didn't expect that in just a moment, these warships had been divided up completely. They had discussed for so long but got nothing. It seems your leaders are quite knowledgeable. All right, let me know when the stuff is ready. Chapter 156. Trophies. Without Fury's interference, Mu-En began to inspect the harvest after returning. In his hand, he held 21 eye-essences and a mind scepter that had not yet begun to extract the eye-essences. If the mind scepter is extracted, the eye-essence in his hand will soar to a full 28. This was the most eye-essence he had ever obtained. As long as he extracted the scepter of mind, he would be able to directly create 7 different sets of armor. Even if he kept 4 as spares as usual, he could still create 6 sets of armor. Thinking of this, Mu-En couldn't help but get excited. The number of armors in his hands really increased. Let's start the extraction work first. Having said that, Mu-En took action. Void energy surged out and wrapped around the mind scepter, while several phantoms of ice essence faintly appeared in his hand. Mu-En is already familiar with extracting ice essence. Soon, 7 eye essences appeared in his hands and merged with the eye essence extracted previously. 28 eye essences. This is the first time I have obtained so many eye essences. Even if he removed the spare eye essence now, the remaining eye essence could still easily create 6 sets of armor. This made Mu-En's mind become active. Almost all the weak points of the armor were repaired. Now he could freely choose some armor. Well, let's create Wukong first. For Wukong Monkey King, the Panacea armor, Mu-En actually wanted to shape it a long time ago. Now that he has enough money, he can use it to shape this armor and experience the powerful force it holds. As the words fell, an energy cocoon appeared around Mu-En as before, emitting a faint light. Click! As the cracking sound was heard, a warrior with feathers on his head, a skirt around his waist and a face like a macaque appeared in the room. Oh, if the decorations on his body were more elaborate, he would really become Monkey King. Shaking the two energy feathers above his head, Mu-En said with a smile. He was very satisfied with Wukong the Monkey King. This armor possessed the most primitive power and was best at using wild attacks to defeat opponents. In battle, Wukong the Monkey King can exert extremely powerful strength. Whether it is attack or defense, this armor can handle it easily. Looking down at his body, Mu-En's mind changed, and an energy shadow jumped out from his body. The moment it separated from his body, the shadow turned into a solid entity and stood beside him. Celestial Twin. This is one of Wukong's abilities, which allows him to create a phantom that is exactly the same as himself to help him fight. Looking at the twin bodies of the heavenly saint that were exactly the same as himself, Mu-En nodded slightly. This brave and fearless phantom clone alone was worth the price of the ticket. Come to think of it, I remember there was a battle armor that could do something similar. The phantom clone is not unique to Wukong the Monkey King. He remembers that there is also armor that can achieve the same effect. After thinking for a while, several armors appeared in his mind. Equinox Yin-Yang twins can complete the split through the strengthening crystal. Although it can't be maintained for a long time like the celestial twins, it is also a good choice. There is also Excalibur Umbra, which is a living armor that can move on its own even when its telepathy is removed. However, I don't seem to have been able to create this armor yet. In addition to these two battle armors, there is also a Caliban that can awaken the spirit in the body. It is also a good choice, but the name. While muttering softly, the armor on his body gradually disappeared in the light and soon turned into a new energy cocoon. He has already made up his mind to create two battle armors, Equinox Yin-Yang twins and Caliban Caliban. These two armors each have their own advantages. Equinox can release different abilities by changing the day and night forms, while Caliban is fused with Lingsha and possesses Lingsha's special abilities. And what he is creating now is none other than the Equinox Yin-Yang twins, which has both day and night forms. After the energy cocoon shattered, a black and white battle armor walked out of it. Equinox Yin-Yang twins has decorations on its arms that look like the hem of a garment, and on its head there are two long horns, one black and one white. The overall look is very much like a human-shaped Tai Chi diagram. The catastrophic power of the day and the tranquil power of the night, these two different powers are actually fused together. This armor is really interesting. Mu-En had an indescribable feeling for this black and white armor. He clearly remembered that before crossing over, he had spent a lot of energy in order to create Equinox Yin-Yang twins. This armor is very different from other armors. The time and energy required to make this armor is enough to make two armors. Let's try switching forms first. Day and night. Mu-En raised his arm slightly, and a stream of energy surrounded his body, and in the blink of an eye, he turned pure white. This is the daytime form of Equinox Yin-Yang twins. The two horns on his head have become only one, and the decorations on the hem of his body have disappeared, making him as strong as a warrior. Now he could spread his anger around like the sun in the daytime. And he also clearly felt that the moment the armor switched to the daytime form, the power of disaster instantly covered the power of tranquility, and a force that could destroy everything was stirring in his body. Is this the power of disaster? Muttering to himself, Mu-En put his fingers on the table, and with a slight activation of the power of disaster, the table was torn into pieces in an instant. Oh, this power is really scary. The destructive power of disaster is very strong, which makes him look forward to the tranquility of the night even more. His body was surrounded by energy again, and the next moment, it changed from pure white to pure black, and he transformed into the form of night. At the moment of changing form, the long horns on the head not only changed position, but also turned from white to black. The body also became much slimmer, and the hems of the clothes reappeared. Mu-En also felt that after the transformation, the disastrous power in his body that wanted to destroy everything was covered by the power of tranquility and became very peaceful. Is this the night form? Putting the power together with the day form, it's really extreme. The disastrous power of the day wants to release its rage like the sun and destroy everything around it, while the tranquil power of the night wants to heal everything like flowing water. These two conflicting forces are now perfectly integrated together, just as the Tai Chi diagram shows, you are in me and I am in you, and we can use each other's strength to maintain balance. Chapter 157, Shaping a New Armor. After completing the shaping of the two battle armors, the essence of I in Mu-En's hand flew out again, surrounding him and turning into an energy cocoon. Since he has decided to create Caliban, Mu-En will not make any temporary changes. Caliban is the fusion of Warframe and Spirit, possessing the powerful strength of both. A beam of energy spread out from the energy cocoon, and the energy cocoon shattered, turning into star-like energy that dissipated in the air. At this moment, Mu-En looked like a semi-mechanized robot, with his entire body covered in a hard metal shell. Carefully feeling his own strength, Mu-En had a certain understanding of the power of this armor. The metal shells on Caliban's body are the spirits embedded in the armor. He can separate these spirits from his body at any time and drive them to fight for him. Gently stroking the armor, suddenly energy lingered around his body, and then a robot that was almost the same size as a human, but with slender limbs and arms like two long sticks, appeared from behind him. Deadly descendant, this robot is the spiritual evil shock user separated from the body. It has strong offensive and adaptable capabilities. It can adapt well to attacks from most weapons, and eventually use its stick-like arms to destroy the enemy. Shockers are one of the most commonly encountered spirits in the game, and their incredible adaptability makes them extremely resistant to stress. As a battle armor separated from the shock user, Caliban also possesses a strong adaptability. No matter what kind of attack, once it enters Mu-En's perception range, this battle armor can respond immediately and quickly adapt to such attacks. Do you have a stronger ability to adapt than Lingsha? The fact that Caliban has an adaptability that is even stronger than Lingsha's makes him a force to be reckoned with. After all, his strong adaptability is matched by his explosive attack methods. Caliban's destructive power is very strong. The attacks he releases are explosive energy, which will cause huge damage to everything around the target. The shockwaver was taken back, and the armor quickly disappeared under the energy surrounding it. Now that 3 warframes have been created, the next step is to consider the remaining 3 warframe slots. What should I do next to build those armors? Mu-En fell into deep thought again. He had too many armors he wanted to use, but the essence of I in his hand was not enough for him to create all the armors, which made it difficult for him to choose for a while. Looking at the Mind Scepter and the Cosmic Cube placed on the table, Mu-En leaned back in his chair with his arms folded across his chest, shaking his body. Speaking of which, there are 4 Infinity Stones on Earth. In addition to the Space Stone and the Mind Stone, there is also the Reality Stone that was sealed by Odin's father in Europe, and the Time Stone in the hands of Ancient One. As he spoke, Mu-En's eyes suddenly lit up. He knew what kind of armor he should create. He wanted to create Protea spiritual machine, a tactical engineer who mastered the power of time and space. Time is a mysterious thing. Ancient One, who holds the Time Stone, can easily block invasions from different dimensions. Even Doctor Strange, who will become the Sorcerer Supreme in the future, can use the Time Stone to negotiate with Dormammu of the Dark Dimension and force the ruler of this Dark Dimension back from the Earth. In this world, there is no one that can control time freely except the Eye of Agamotto on the chest of Ancient One. Protea is the armor that masters the power of time and space. She can travel freely in time and use the power of the past to counterattack future enemies. Well, I decided to use Protea. It will be a good opportunity for me to feel the power of time and space. As soon as he finished speaking, he was wrapped in the energy cocoon. As time went by, the light of the energy cocoon became brighter and brighter. With a cracking sound, a battle armor that looked like a female logistics officer on the battlefield appeared in the room. After appearing, Mu-En did not take any action. He clearly felt that time was passing by. Energy lingered in his hands, and he gently pushed in the air. The surroundings instantly became silent, and everything was frozen in place. So this is the power of time and space that Protea spiritual machine controls. Mu-En sighed, dispersed the energy in his hands, and the passage of time around him returned to normal. He already understood the power of Protea. The power of time and space controlled by this armor was somewhat different from the power of the time gem. Protea time-traveling spiritual machine can travel freely in time, but she cannot reverse the time around her. At most, she can make time within a certain range remain still, just like Mu-En's action just now, making the time around her pause. When Mu-En tried to use the power of time and space, Ancient One, who was far away in Camartage, was alarmed by this unusual situation. Someone used the power of time. Ancient One looked at the location of the New York Temple. As the supreme sorcerer who was in contact with the Eye of Agamotto day and night, she was all too familiar with the power of time. The slightest change in time and space cannot escape her perception. After discovering that someone was using the power of time, Ancient One hurriedly opened the portal and rushed to the New York Temple. New York Temple. The wizard stationed here made himself a pot of tea as usual and sat in a rocking chair holding a thick book. A portal with sparks flying everywhere opened instantly, an ancient one walked out of it. Mage Supreme. The wizards stationed at the New York temple were a little stunned. Why did the Supreme Sorcerer suddenly come to New York? Just as he was about to stand up, he saw Gu walking out of the temple without looking back. Master Supreme, is there something urgent? Looking at the closed temple door, the stationed wizard shook his head slightly, lay back in the rocking chair, and started reading the book in his hand. After walking out of the New York temple, Ancient One closed his eyes and carefully felt the source of the time fluctuations. After a while, Gu Yi opened her eyes, and the space around her spread outward like water waves, carrying her away from the temple gate. At this time, Mu En was still trying to control time in a small range. He condensed energy on his fingertips again and was about to continue trying to control time in a small range when he heard a sound behind him. Along with the sound, a voice came. Did you adjust the time? Hearing this, Mu En turned around and looked over, and Protea Bo Shi Ling Ji also disappeared in the energy surround. Is this the only question you came to me for? Ancient One. Seeing that it was Mu En who was fluctuating time, Gu Yi couldn't help but be stunned. She didn't expect that it was Mu En who was adjusting the time. Do you have the power of time? Asked Gu Yi. Master the power of time. Mu En shrugged. How is that possible? At most, you are not bound by time. Chapter 158. Cowboys and Ninjas. Although Protea spiritual machine has mastered the power of time and space, it has not yet reached the point where it can freely control time. Seeing Mu En say this, Gu Yi couldn't help but feel curious. If Mu En was unable to master the power of time, then what was going on with the time fluctuations that just came from him? If I'm not mistaken, this is what you are talking about. As soon as he finished speaking, his arm turned into Protea time machine, and with a wave of his hand, he adjusted the time around him. Now Gu Yi understood clearly that Mu En was indeed manipulating time, but the range of his influence was not large. It would be more accurate to say that he was intercepting the time of a certain space and time rather than disturbing time. This does not have much impact on the whole world. After all, Mu En did not change the timeline, but only paused time in a certain place. So that's how it is. Gu Yi sighed. She didn't expect that Mu En would disturb time in this way. She clearly felt through the eye of Agamotto that Mu En was no longer bound by time, just as he said. The present Mu En exists not only in the past, but also in the future. Although Mu En could not reverse time like the eye of Agamotto, he at least touched the boundary of time. Hehe, speaking of which, the necklace you are wearing is the time gem, right? Can it give me some energy? Mu En asked. The time stone, like other gems, contains endless energy, and Mu En also knows that it is impossible for Ancient One to give the time stone to him, so it is more likely to ask Ancient One for some energy directly. As for the time stone, he will get it in the future. Gu Yi was slightly stunned by Mu En's request, then shook his head. The eye of Agamotto is very important. It concerns the future of the world. I'm sorry that I can't give you its energy, but I can give you some power from the dark dimension. Mu En was not surprised by Gu Yi's refusal. After all, it was an important tool for her to deal with various dimensions. If the power of time was leaked out, it would likely affect the defense of the dimension. However, he was somewhat surprised that Ancient One was willing to use the power of the dark dimension instead. That's fine. Mu En nodded and said with a smile, for a power that is not from another dimension, you are not polite. After all, they have coveted the earth for a long time. Why should I help them maintain their power? As he spoke, a black energy appeared behind Gu Yi's head, and Mu En finally understood what colorful black meant. Driven by Ancient One, the black energy quickly condensed and turned into energy the size of a baby's fist floating in front of Mu En. This is what you got. After giving the power of the dark dimension to Mu En, Ancient One opened the portal and left. Mu En directly grabbed the power of the dark dimension and injected it into the blank empowerment. The empowerment that possesses the power of the dark dimension should be called the power of darkness. This is also simpler. After casually giving the empowerment a name, Mu En once again focused on shaping the armor. What kind of armor should I create next? After pondering for a moment, a battle armor appeared in his mind. It was Mesa Holy Spear Mass, the sharpshooter who possessed the fastest dual guns in the stars. The power she displayed was completely different from the previous armor. Her ability was the dual guns in her hands. No matter where she was, her bullets could accurately hit the opponent, and she could completely defeat the enemy with a hail of bullets released by the dual guns. Just like before, Mu-En slowly walked out of the energy cocoon. Now he looked like a blindfolded cowboy. The dual monitor pistols on the arms can be equipped and fired at any time. Ha, you are worthy of being called a sharpshooter. This perception ability alone is much stronger than other armors. Mesa Holy Spear Mass possesses super strong concentration and reaction ability, which gives her a strong perception ability and allows her to respond quickly to any disturbance around her. With a slight shake of his hands, the inspector's dual guns suddenly flipped over and fell into his hands. The moment he held the dual guns, Mu-En found that he had a clearer perception of the surrounding situation. He could even feel that every bullet fired from the supervisor's double pistols could hit whatever he wanted according to his wishes. Now I've really become a sharpshooter who never misses a shot. Mesa's abilities, whether attacking or defending, are all related to firearms and ammunition. She can accumulate her shooting damage and eventually fire a bullet with great force, causing huge damage to the enemy. You can also release energy lassos to interfere with the surrounding enemy firearms, causing various problems with their firearms. You can also open a special energy shield that not only reduces damage taken, but also reflects attacks back and strikes back at the attacker. This is the ability of a sharpshooter, and Mu-En is also very satisfied with this armor. He had used this armor more than once in the game. The bullets from the supervisor's dual guns were like a stream of water, sweeping away all the enemies within sight. Although Mesa Holy Spear Mass does not have the dazzling and colorful expressiveness of other armors, her pistol skills are definitely not worse than those armors. Well, that's pretty good. I can still play the role of a sharpshooter in the future. You have to know that although Mu-En's spear skills are not bad, he can't achieve the effect of always hitting the target like Mesa Holy Spear Mass, or even the effect of always hitting the target when shooting. After feeling the power of Mesa for a while, two battle armors with distinct styles appeared in Mu-En's mind. It seems that the last battle armor creation quota will have to be chosen from these two battle armors. The two battle armors that appeared in his mind were Ash Blade of Ashes with ninja style, and Baruch Holy Fist Monk with monk style that followed the precepts. Ash Blade of Ashes is a ninja, and the abilities he possesses have a distinct ninja style. Baruch Holy Fist Monk is a monk with great endurance. However, when his endurance reaches its limit, he will turn the anger in his heart into a storm to destroy the enemy. That's not a good choice. These two distinctive styles of armor both possess unique powers. This made Mu-En fall into deep thought. Which armor should he use the last casting quota for? After weighing the capabilities of the two armors, Mu-En finally made a decision. He was ready to shape Ash Blade of Ashes. Although Baruch Holy Fist Monk's abilities are very good, Mu-En is more interested in Ash Blade of Ashes' combat abilities. Compared with the restraint of Baruch Holy Fist Monk, Mu-En prefers the proactive attack of Ash Blade of Ashes. Moving quickly among enemies and unleashing fatal blows on all of them is a perfect match for the assassin-type style of ninja. Chapter 159, Transaction on the High Seas. After making the selection, Mu-En began to shape Ash Blade of Ashes. Soon, a man in dark grey armor walked out of the energy cocoon, and his arms looked like they were wearing woven armor. Mu-En suddenly raised his hand and swung it towards the wall. Two high-speed spinning shurikens flew out from his hand. The next moment, two shurikens were deeply nailed into the wall. This is the shuriken that Mu-En released without using his full strength. If he had released it with his full strength, the wall would probably have been directly penetrated by the shuriken. The force of this dart is really strong. If it were a human, it would probably be nailed to the wall by the shuriken. He didn't even use much force, but the two shurikens penetrated the wall. You can imagine how strong this force is. Looking carefully in the mirror, Mu-En suddenly laughed. This really does look like Bruce's future suit. Using darts and items in the same way, Ash Blade of Ashes is not much different from Bruce except for the ability to teleport and the blade storm that can kill many enemies, which means that his combat power is slightly stronger than Bruce. Come to think of it, it's been a while since I left Gotham. I wonder how Bruce and Selina, that little thief, are doing. And Clark should be ready for training, right? After taking back Ash Blade of Ashes, Mu-En stroked his chin and recalled the little guys. After the battleship transaction is completed, I should go back and take a look. He planned to go to Gotham. Since there wouldn't be anything attractive here for a while, he might as well take this opportunity to meet Bruce and the others. During the time when Mu-En was shaping the armor, the others were also busy. Tony spends all day in the laboratory, studying the technology of the Chitauri and Asgard. Explosions can be heard from time to time in his laboratory. If he could not equip himself with a nano battlesuit at any time, he would have been sent to the ICU by the explosion. Compared to Tony's research, Dr. Banner is now much more relaxed as he no longer has to hide from being hunted down. S.H.I.E.L.D. vouched for him, allowing him to become an Avenger like Steve and others to protect the safety of the Earth. Of course, he joined as a research scholar. As for the fighting, it is better to leave it to the Hulk in his body. However, among all the Avengers, he is the most idle. After all, everyone else has his own job, and when there are no Avengers missions, they still have a lot to do. As a man who has been hunted for many years, what kind of job is there for him? He just spends every day in the Avengers building studying his own body. In contrast, Fury, who founded the Avengers, is busy every day. These days he is coordinating conflicts among several directors. The 3 directors acted quickly, leaving the other 2 directors no time to react and missing the opportunity to seize the battleship. This made the 2 directors very dissatisfied. They are now engaged in a war of words with the 3 directors, demanding to share warships and research warship technology together. Such a request was unanimously rejected by the 3 directors, who had no obligation to share warships with other countries. Amidst the constant quarrels among several directors, the date for trading the warships was set. The directors have made a decision and are ready to conduct the transaction on the high seas of the Pacific Ocean. After the transaction date was confirmed, Fury immediately informed Mu-En. Mu-En couldn't help but shake his head at the efficiency of these people. It was just a Chirita warship, but it took so long to negotiate, and it was no surprise that they chose to trade on the high seas. Soon the day for trading warships arrived. There were several aircraft carriers parked on the high seas of the Pacific Ocean. They came from different countries and kept a certain distance from each other. They were all waiting for the warship to arrive. As soon as the warship arrived, they would immediately complete the transaction and escort the warship back home. The sea was sparkling and everyone was waiting for the warship to arrive. Mu-En didn't let them wait too long. 3 warships quickly descended from the sky and covered several aircraft carriers. Who will sign for your express delivery? And pay the delivery fee at the same time? Mu-En's voice came from the battleship, and then one of the battleships opened its bottom compartment and shot a tractor beam at one of the aircraft carriers. The battleship was parked above an aircraft carrier. The moment the tractor beam was projected, all the technical data and special resources piled up on the aircraft carrier were towed and flew onto the battleship. The technologies provided by the 3 countries were very good, many of which were what he needed, and those resources were exactly what he needed to research those technologies. Such a deal made Mu-En very satisfied. After waving his hand to open a portal to send all these things away, Mu-En looked at the yellow-skinned soldier slowly rising in the traction beam and smiled. Although we are not in the same world, we have the same name after all. Consider these things my gifts to you. He left a hard drive full of Kree technology on the console, waved his hand to open the portal, and came to another warship. The same operations were performed on the aircraft carriers of the 2 countries, and all the resources and technologies on the aircraft carriers were taken away by Mu-En. These countries did not have any ulterior motives. They were all sincere and exchanged the same technology and resources for the space battleships. However, Mu-En did not leave any gifts for the 2 countries. He just completed the transaction normally, turned around, left the high seas through the portal, and returned to Tony's mansion. There were a lot of special resources and technical data, all of which were thrown by Mu-En into the Chirita command ship that was about to be transformed into a channel starship. Just throw all these things over there first. No one will find them anyway. Transforming the railjack is no small project and it will take a long time to complete. Besides, he doesn't need the railjack for the time being, so he might as well take this opportunity to go to Gotham to meet his students whom he hasn't seen for a long time. In this transaction, China gained the most. Although they paid a high price, they also got a lot in return. In addition to the Chita warship originally traded, they also found a hard drive filled with various technologies placed on the operating table. If it weren't for the words about the gift for them written on the hard drive, they would almost think that Mu-En had accidentally left it here. After finishing all this, Mu-En prepared gifts. He had been away from Gotham for some time and didn't know what had happened there. But since he was going back, he still had to prepare some gifts. After all, it was always bad to go back empty-handed, and he had already decided what gifts he wanted to give. Let's prepare some combat uniforms for them. These things are very effective in all aspects, and they may even bring some inspiration to Bruce. Moon couldn't help but smile when he thought that the combat suit he gave would become the basis of Bruce's future combat suit. Chapter 160. When will the teacher come back? The night in Gotham is the same as always, where the light cannot reach, countless crimes are breeding. A butterfly flies silently in the darkness, and sometimes when it is illuminated by light, it emits a metallic luster. Not far from where the butterfly was flying, two fully armed teenagers were following it stealthily, looking like they were avoiding something. Sensei's razor butterfly should be able to hold out for a while. We have to act quickly. Bruce had a rapier on his back and a kunai in his hand, ready to attack at any time. Beside him, Selina was holding a dagger, clinging tightly to the wall, her eyes fixed on the direction where the razor butterfly was flying. Since Mu-En left, the two of them have experienced a lot of things together and encountered many dangers. However, with their mutual cooperation, those guys who harbored malicious intentions towards them were all easily dealt with by them. SHH, keep your voice down, there's no telling where those weird guys might appear. I'll go up and take a look first. Selina said softly, raised her hand and grabbed the gap in the wall, and easily climbed onto the roof without making any sound. It seemed that she was really a cat, light and agile. After climbing onto the roof, Selina remained vigilant. She crawled on the roof and used the goggles hanging around her neck to check the surrounding situation. The surroundings were dead silent and seemed deserted, but Selina knew very well that those strange guys who suddenly appeared in Gotham were all hiding in the darkness, waiting to show up. The razor butterfly appeared in Selina's sight, like a real butterfly, fluttering its wings and flying everywhere. Shoo! A black shadow flashed and attacked the razor butterfly. Selina had good eyesight, and in the cover of darkness, she could barely make out the black shadow rushing towards razor butterfly. He was a burly fellow with a ferocious face, like a wild beast. They are indeed lying in ambush around here. Selina was no longer surprised by such situations. The guy who looked like a beast was a group of killers who suddenly appeared in Gotham and attacked the Wayne family. The expressions of these people were all the same, and looked extremely ferocious. Their target was Bruce, the only heir of the Wayne family. Bruce had been attacked by these people before in Wayne Manor. If Bruce had not already mastered the fighting skills taught by Moon, trained seriously every day, and had the help of Razor Butterfly, he might have really died in the attack. Bruce, come up. He turned and whispered to Bruce, who was hiding under the house, without any concern for the Razor Butterfly. She knew very well that instead of worrying about the Razor Butterflies, they should worry about themselves. Although the Razor Butterfly is only small, its fighting power is definitely far beyond the two of them. Just as Bruce climbed onto the roof, the killer who rushed towards Razor Butterfly let out a roar and his arm fell to the ground. The bright red blood dyed the Razor Butterfly red. The Razor Butterfly suddenly accelerated, leaving a streak of silver light in the air and passing directly through the head of the roaring killer. The moment the Razor Butterfly passed through, the killer fell straight to the ground, without a sound. The Razor Butterfly seemed to be stimulated by the blood. It flew at a high speed in the air and killed the killers hiding around. While the Razor Butterflies were killing crazily, Selina and Bruce quickly moved across the rooftops and ran away. It won't be long before this place attracts the attention of other killers, and they must escape from here before those people are attracted. The two men ran towards the roof, but their footsteps were imperceptible, not even as loud as the faint sound of the whistle coming from the dock in the distance. They ran for a long time and stopped on a rooftop that was filled with a lot of debris. Let's hide here first. They won't come looking for us for the time being. Having said that, Selina dived into the pile of debris, ready to have a good rest here. Bruce didn't hesitate either. He also jumped into the pile of debris, letting it completely bury his body. He had already adapted to this kind of life. In the previous attacks, he relied on Selina's survival skills to survive the attacks of those killers. Bruce found a comfortable position among the clutter and lay down, then asked Selina, who was lying beside him. When do you think the teacher will come back? How could I know? Selina answered gloomily. Like Bruce, she didn't know where Moon had gone. Although she has never called Mu-En teacher, in her heart, Mu-En is the most irreplaceable person. If it weren't for Mu-En's training, she would never have been able to master her current strength, let alone survive these attacks. If it were a teacher, those people would have been easily dealt with, right? Bruce sighed. They only used one Razor Butterfly left by Mu-En to deal with so many dangerous situations, and made this Razor Butterfly a nightmare for those enemies. However, there are countless Razor Butterflies around Mu-En. If it were Mu-En, Gotham would definitely not be like it is now, with constant disputes. If he were here, we would never be in this situation now. Those guys can't even get into Wayne Manor. Then Selina changed the subject and said, I'll take a rest for a while and pay attention to the surrounding situation. Okay, take a rest. Even though Bruce was tired as well, he knew they couldn't relax yet and could only take turns resting to recover their strength. After Selina fell asleep, Bruce observed the surrounding situation through the gaps between the debris, waiting for the return of the razor butterfly. Soon, a metal butterfly appeared beside him. It had a metallic luster all over its body and the blood stains on it were long gone. You're back. Please send a message to Alfred for me. As he spoke, he tore off a piece of cloth from the sundries, wrote something on it, rolled it up and handed it to Razor Butterfly. Go find Alfred and give him this roll of cloth. The Razor Butterfly shot a thin thread and flew towards Wayne Manor with the roll of cloth. At Wayne Manor, Alfred was wearing a plaster cast and standing at the window looking out. He had lost contact with Bruce since the attack, and he had no idea what Bruce's current situation was. Master Bruce, you must not get into any trouble. In fact, Alfred was very puzzled. Ever since the Waynes were killed, Bruce seemed to be cursed and lived in a world of attacks all the time. This situation became more and more obvious especially after Muen left. They have already suffered 4 assassin attacks. The assassins were becoming more and more powerful. Before, he could still deal with them for a while, but now he was no match for them. His arms were the best proof of that. If it weren't for the razor butterfly left by Moon, Bruce would have been killed by those killers several times. Mr. Moon, I don't know where you've been, but if you don't come back, Master Bruce might not be able to take it anymore. Chapter 161. Ninja in the Dark. The rooftop of the Wayne Group building. Moon stood here overlooking the entire Gotham, and at his fingertips rested a razor butterfly with a cloth roll. It's the one that was left behind. Gently stroking the razor butterfly, Muen untied the cloth roll that was tied to it with silk thread. There was a sentence written on the cloth roll. Alfred, don't worry about me, I'm safe now. Bruce, did Bruce ask you to give it to Alfu? It looks like this kid is in danger again. Although he was smiling, there was a coldness in Muen's eyes. As energy surrounded his body, he transformed into the ninja-like ash blade of ashes. I wanted to give Bruce a surprise, but now I want him to see the power of the ninja who walks in the dark. As he spoke, Muen turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared from the roof of the Wayne Group building, like a razor butterfly, flying at a high speed in the direction from which he came. As the razor butterfly flew back, grey smoke appeared around it from time to time. After crossing most of the city, the razor butterfly returned to the pile of junk where Bruce and Selina were hiding. There are many killers with ferocious faces and strong bodies gathered nearby. They were looking for Bruce and Selina everywhere. Among them was a hot-tempered killer who punched the wall, leaving a deep fist mark on the wall. Are these the cyborgs, the ones who attacked Bruce this time? Muen could see clearly that these killers were not ordinary people. Apart from other things, even their tremendous strength that could leave fist marks on the wall was not something a normal person could possess. Standing on the roof, Muen looked down at these people. He was very interested in their origins. He wanted to know where these modified people came from. His undisguised gaze was instantly noticed by the cyborg killers. One of the killers threw out a dagger, which spun rapidly in the air, making a sharp sound of breaking through the air. Dang Muen's wrist trembled slightly, and 2 shurikens flew out from his hand in an instant, not only knocking the flying dagger away, but also hitting the killer hard. The 2 shurikens carried a powerful force, knocking the killer away and nailing him to the wall, killing him instantly. Muen also started other actions, looking down at these killers, and the blade storm was instantly activated. Then 2 grey mist-like shadow clones rushed out of the body, constantly appearing behind the killers, using the hidden blades on their arms to cause fatal damage to the killers. Muen also disappeared instantly and joined the killing of the shadow clone. The hidden blade on his arm instantly pierced through a killer's head, and with a sudden swing of his arm, the hidden blade split the killer's body in 2. With his participation, the killers were quickly slaughtered, and the killers who had gathered fled. Although they are cyborgs, it does not mean that they are without emotions. The situation before them is obviously not something they can solve. Even after being transformed, they can never be the opponent of the Shadow Warrior. The guys in front are the best proof of this. The death of a large number of killers attracted Bruce's attention, and he seemed to hear continuous screams. Serena, wake up, Serena! Bruce pushed Selina, who was resting, frowned, and listened carefully to the screams. And Selina, the moment she was awakened, also heard the screams. This sound seems to be coming from those killers. They had all heard the killer's voice, especially when the razor butterfly killed the killer, a similar sound would be heard. Is someone killing those killers? Bruce and Selina, who were hiding in the pile of debris, looked at each other. This idea quickly grew in their minds, and then Selina quietly stood up. You hide here, I'll go check out the situation. As soon as the words fell, Selina crawled out from the pile of debris like a cat, carefully hid in a safe place on the roof, and looked in the direction where the scream came from. Then, with the dim light, she could barely see those burly weird killers being chased by 3 warriors who almost blended into the shadows. No matter where those killers fled, they could not escape from the hands of those 3 warriors. The 3 warriors in the dark would appear behind them and kill them completely. Bruce, come here. Shouting softly to the pile of debris behind her, Selina continued to look at the warrior who was chasing the killer. Bruce was also very curious. He wondered why Selina would call him over. After all, after confirming the situation, Selina would return to the hiding place to discuss the matter. After crawling out from the pile of debris and reaching Selina, Bruce was stunned by the situation in front of him. Those killers who had been chasing them relentlessly have now become someone else's prey. They are fleeing frantically, but no one can escape from here. After the last killer was eliminated, the 2 people who were secretly observing suddenly saw the 3 warriors who eliminated the killer look up in their direction. Oh no! Let's run! Before she could finish her words, Selina saw the 3 warriors disappear in an instant, and a familiar voice appeared behind them. Where are you 2 going to run to? This familiar voice made the 2 of them dazed. They turned around stiffly, only to see Mu-En looking at them with a smile. Teacher! You are back! Bruce shouted excitedly, and Selina's eyes were red. Ever since Mu-En left, the 2 of them have hardly had a single day of peace. There are always various accidents happening, forcing them to constantly flee. He smiled and patted their shoulders, then casually placed the razor butterfly in front of them. If it weren't for the banner sent by Bruce, I wouldn't have known you were in danger. Now the danger is over, let's go back. The 2 did not object to Mu-En's proposal. They were very confident in Mu-En's strength, and they had just witnessed with their own eyes the scene of Mu-En killing these killers. Although they didn't know how Mu-En did those things, they didn't care because they knew Mu-En would not hurt them. They headed outside. A car was essential if they wanted to return to Wayne Manor. As they walked outside, some equally burly and ferocious killers rushed towards them, and the 2 sides inevitably met. Shoo shuriken! The moment he encountered the killer, Mu-En shot out 2 shurikens from his hands, directly defeating the rushing killer. Selina and Bruce were also shocked by this move, especially Bruce, who was even more shocked by Moon's move. It turned out that Mu-En had never used his full strength in front of him, but the throwing method he learned from Mu-En could actually unleash such powerful force. Bruce, remember what I told you. Remember, you must prepare plans for various situations so that your plans can be executed at any time. Never put yourself in a passive position. Bruce remembered Moon's teachings very clearly, but it was easy to say but extremely difficult to do. Chapter 162. Long time no see, Afu. Moon nodded slightly in response to Bruce's answer. He knew that Bruce was still too immature, but it would be better to cultivate this kind of thinking early. After all, as the only person with the ability of money, Bruce has no other abilities and he can only rely on himself. This is also the reason why Moon wanted Bruce to understand this truth in advance. After all, Bruce without a backup plan is just an ordinary person with certain combat abilities. As they continued to advance, more and more killers were eliminated by Mu-En. With Moon's protection, Bruce and Selina no longer have to hide everywhere. They saw with their own eyes that these killers that made them hide everywhere were like paper and were vulnerable in front of Moon. They moved forward, moving towards Wayne Manor. The number of killers on the road is decreasing. The abnormal situation here obviously alarmed the killer organization, and the killer organization did not continue to send out killers to continue hunting Bruce. Moon was also happy to have some free time, so he took Bruce and Selina and headed back to Wayne Manor. Wayne Manor. Alfred loaded the pistol that Moon gave him and prepared to go out to look for Bruce's whereabouts. In recent times, the Wayne group has become particularly chaotic due to Bruce's disappearance, and many people want to take this opportunity to take over the Wayne group. This is what Alfred least wants to see. Wayne group is the wealth left by the Wayne family to Bruce, and no one else can get involved. Master, where are you? Muttering to himself, Alfred was already fully armed. Due to the problem of the arm cast, Alfred chose a disposable magazine that was more convenient to change bullets. He once tried to use the pistol that Muen gave him. Although the gun looked very ordinary, the bullets it fired had extremely strong destructive power. The previous killer's attack was too sudden, so he had no time to draw his gun and could only choose to fight with the opponent. The result of the fight was obvious. His arm was broken in the fight with the strong killer. In the end, he managed to keep some distance and finally killed the killer with one shot. But during the time he was fighting the killer, Bruce and Selina were already being hunted by other killers and had to leave Wayne Manor. Sitting in the driver's seat, Alfred glanced at the seat behind him, his face gloomy. Master Bruce, who was supposed to be sitting in the back row, is now nowhere to be found. He can only pray in his heart that Bruce is okay. After driving away from Wayne Manor, Alfred wandered around Gotham, walking through various dark alleys, looking for the shadow of Bruce. Master Bruce, where the hell are you? The car kept traveling through the night of Gotham, while on the other side, Moon was walking on the street with Bruce and Selina, listening to Bruce and Selina telling everything that happened after he left. In addition to the 4 assassin attacks they encountered, the two also talked about the changes that had taken place in Gotham during this time. In recent times, many people or things that only existed in legends in the past have appeared in Gotham. A group of crazy guys appeared in Gotham. Some of them are simply crazy. They seem to care about nothing and always do the most exciting and thrilling things. Others like to collect adrenal glands. Many people's adrenal glands have been taken away. There is even a guy with a pig face. All those who die in his hands will wear a fresh pig face like him. In addition to these, there are also many beastmen like those killers in Gotham. The only difference is that the beastmen have no intelligence. Apart from their human form, they are no different from ordinary beasts. For a while, the police in Gotham were searching for these monsters everywhere. Many beastmen were successfully captured and all were sent to Arkham Asylum. Muen listened to these stories with great fascination. Although he knew that Gotham was not peaceful, he did not expect that so many things had happened in Gotham during the time he was away. It seems that the guy who created those beastmen has a close relationship with this killer organization. Those beastmen were obviously experimental subjects, and it was only after repeated experiments by those beastmen that those killers with hideous faces and strong bodies appeared. As he was speaking, Bruce suddenly stopped, his face looking extremely excited. Oh? Is that Afu? At the moment Bruce's expression changed, Moon also sensed that a car was approaching, and in that car was his old acquaintance, Bruce's butler Alfred. Squeak as Bruce waved excitedly, the car stopped in front of them. Alfred, who was in the driver's seat, jumped out of the car and ran towards Bruce. Master Bruce, how have you been lately? It's okay. I was hiding with Selina most of the time. Then Bruce said happily, Alfred, look who's back. Hearing Bruce's prompt, Alfred looked up, and Muen was looking at him with a smile, which made him stunned for a while. Hi, long time no see, Afu. This familiar tone brought Alfred back to his senses quickly. Mr. Muen, you are finally back. If this continues, the young master will probably be killed by the continuous assassins. Alfred was very excited. He didn't expect that Muen would actually come back. With Muen around, Wayne Manor could finally have some peace for a while. But Moon was amused by Alfred's words and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, Alfu, Bruce is not as fragile as you think. I know you are worried about Bruce, but he can't accept your care for his whole life, right? Whether it's Bruce or Selina, they have to find their own way, and the best we can do is lay the foundation for them. He knew too well the abilities of Bruce, the future Batman, the ability to have a plan to deal with anything that happened, allowing Bruce to fight against all kinds of powerful opponents with just a mortal body. And now, Bruce will become even stronger under his guidance. Alfred had no objection to Moon's words. He knew that what Moon said was true. He was old and could not always be with Bruce. So Bruce has to face everything alone and keep himself safe no matter what happens. The next day Bruce woke up in his room. This was the most comfortable sleep he had had recently, and he was not at all wary of his surroundings. It turns out that only at home can I feel peaceful. I'm sorry, Master. Alfred pushed open the door and walked in. In fact, it's not Wayne Manor that makes you feel so relieved, but the return of Mr. Moon. With Muen in charge, not to mention Bruce, even this old guy could sleep especially soundly. He knew very well that it was Moon's gift to them that made them feel an unprecedented sense of security. Chapter 163. Test. Alfred was right, Bruce did feel safe because of Moon's return. As a student, he didn't know what kind of power Mu-En possessed. Whether it was the razor butterflies that could kill instantly or the ghostly movements, they all amazed him. After all, Mu-En had only left behind a metal razor butterfly to protect them in the past. Alfred, do you know the teacher's true strength? I'm sorry, Master Bruce. Alfred shook his head. I don't know more about Mr. Mu-En's ability than you do, but I can be sure of one thing, Mr. Mu-En really treats you as a student. This made Bruce laugh. Just as he trusted Moon-En, Moon-En also trusted him very much, otherwise he would not have treated him as a real student. Maybe I need to talk to the teacher. That kind of powerful strength is not something a normal person can do. Bruce had seen it clearly before that those killers like the Beastmen were no different from ordinary people in front of Moon. It seemed that the killers that had kept him and Selena hiding for so long were no different from babies in front of Moon. While they were talking, Selena also woke up from the guest room. She played with the dagger that Mu-En gave her, with a faint smile on her lips. Now that he's back, Bruce and I can finally live in peace for a while. These days, their nerves are on edge, fearing a head-on encounter with the killers. They live in even greater fear than their previous wandering life. But she knew that from now on they would no longer have to worry, as Mu-En was their greatest guarantee. She also wanted to learn from Mu-En how to master this powerful force so that they would be able to fight when they encountered danger. Putting the dagger back into the scabbard at her waist, Selena walked towards the bathroom. Compared to their performance, Mu-En has not changed much. Although it was a very happy thing to see Bruce and others again, it was not so exciting that he couldn't sleep. Mu-En, feeling refreshed after waking up, took out 3 combat suits from the space module on his belt. This thing is really suitable as a gift. What Bruce and the others said last night made Moon even more satisfied with the gift he had prepared. Bruce had encountered so many things before he even became the Dark Knight. In the future, Bruce will encounter more powerful enemies, and the combat suit he prepares will be Bruce's first step towards becoming the Dark Knight. Come to think of it, Selena seems to be Bruce's wife. Mu-En raised his eyebrows and smiled. It was obvious that his 2 students liked each other, and in the future, he might even see their children. However, Alfred is indeed not young anymore. It seems that we need to find a chance to inject him with Howard's life serum. As the Wayne family's butler, Alfred has always been guarding Bruce, but he is really old. Perhaps it won't be many years before he and Bruce will be separated. Holding several combat uniforms, Moon walked towards the garden of Wayne Manor. After a while, Alfred came with a food tray. Although Moon had been gone for a long time, he still remembered Moon's living habits. Moon would train in the garden every morning. Behind him, Bruce and Selena also changed into training clothes and appeared in the garden with Alfred. In the garden, Mu-En was waving a long sword in his hand. Countless sword lights enveloped him, making him look impenetrable. Woo-hoo-hoo! The long sword whistled in the air, and the sound was like the cry of a peregrine falcon, sharp and long. He had mastered powerful strength through the Vezarin school, and this performance was no different from playing for him. A stream of void energy spread along his hand on the sword, and the sword light emitted an even more terrifying power. Is this the power that the teacher holds? Bruce and Selena were stunned by the situation in front of them. The fallen leaves and petals in the garden fluttered in the air along with the sword in Moon's hand, surrounding Moon, looking like magic. Only Alfred quickly recovered from his shock and placed the tray on the stone table in the garden, preparing tea for everyone. After the sword dance, Mu-En stopped and looked at the few people. You 2 come and attack me. Let me see to what extent you 2 have mastered what I taught you. If I am satisfied, I will give you a gift. After hearing Moon's words, Bruce and Selena looked at each other and walked up together. Bruce came first. He pulled out a fully sharpened rapier from his back and saluted Mu-En with his hand on his chest. Then he suddenly swung the sword and used cunning tricks to kill Mu-En. No one was worried about this situation. Even if Bruce was using a fully sharpened rapier, they all knew that Bruce could not hurt Mu-En at all. If Mu-En wanted, he could not even touch the corner of Mu-En's clothes. Facing Bruce, who was attacking with a cunning trick, Mu-En didn't even move a step, but flicked his finger at the incoming rapier. Hey! The rapier was directly bounced away, and Bruce took advantage of the moment the rapier was bounced away to turn around and swing the sword. This was a defensive counterattack move by the cunning fox, called Invisible Swing. As the name suggested, the sword instantly drew a ray of light in the air. But the gap in strength between Bruce and Moon-en was too big. Although Bruce's move made Moon-en's eyes light up, it still couldn't make him move at all. Looking at the sword light coming towards him, Moon-en gently raised his hand and grasped the blade of Bruce's rapier with just 2 fingers, making him unable to move. The moment the rapier was grabbed, Bruce released the hilt of the sword, and with his hands from his waist, several kunao shot out from Moon. At the same time, he pulled out the dagger Moon gave him from his waist and rushed forward. He was trying his best to show Moon the results of his training. Facing Bruce's tactical attack, Moon nodded with satisfaction. Bruce can now use these combat skills skillfully. If there is a flaw, it is that he is just an ordinary person. If Bruce's opponents were ordinary people, then Bruce's power would be enough. But now, those killers who harbored ill intentions towards Bruce were obviously not ordinary people. With Bruce's strength, he can at most rely on the environment around him and his skillful combat skills to fight 1 or 2 such killers. Any more and his strength would not be enough to handle it. A vortex appeared in his right hand, sucking in all the kunao shot by Bruce, and then he grabbed Bruce with his other hand and pressed him to the ground easily. That's a good performance, but you can't attack at such a close distance with your current strength. After saying that, he let go of Bruce and returned all his weapons. Next, it's your turn, little thief cat. Chapter 164. The Stronger People. Looking at Selena with a smile, Moon was very satisfied with this girl who was as agile and alert as a cat. Seeing Moon looking at her, Selena was not afraid. She took out a long whip from her waist and walked towards Moon. Buzzing bee sting call, the long whip was lashed towards Moon from a distance, and the whip was as straight as a spike. Faced with such an attack, Moon nodded with satisfaction, then raised his hand and grabbed the whip tightly. That's a good performance, but before you use the whip, be aware of the difference in strength between you and your opponent. As he said this, he let go of the whip and signaled Selena to continue attacking. And Selena did not hesitate, she waved her hand and pulled the whip back so that it circled around her. Clap leading claw, the long whip was like a sharp claw, pulled out in an instant, making 2 sonic booms in the air, and the powerful sonic boom exploded directly beside Moon. This move, like the buzzing sting, is one of the moves of the scorching wasp. However, what Selena showed did surprise Moon. After all, being able to use the sonic boom of the leadership claw to this extent was indeed beyond his expectations. She raised her hand, grabbed the whip and shook it violently. Selena, who was holding the whip, could no longer hold it. The whip flew out of her hand and flew towards Moon. Selena's performance was almost the same as Bruce's. The moment her weapon was taken away, she drew the dagger from her waist and rushed towards Moon. But her performance was completely different from Bruce's. Bruce is more of a warrior, and even when he attacks with a dagger, he can't help but show the qualities of a warrior. Selena is more like an assassin. Her body is extremely flexible. When attacking Moon, she did not choose to attack with force like Bruce did, but immediately moved away after the attack. Although she didn't hit Moon, she wasn't caught by him like Bruce was. While circling Moon, Selena discovered a slight flaw behind Moon, which made her happy. She swung the dagger and attacked Moon from behind. Thump. Selena, who attacked Moon from behind, was subdued by him in an instant. You performed well and your observation skills are very good. The only flaw is that you are too impulsive. That flaw is designed to lure you. Letting go of Serena, Moon commented on her. Then he walked towards the stone table in the garden. The smell of the snacks prepared by Alfred made him salivate. Eat something first, and I'll give you gifts later. After saying that, he picked up the snack and took a bite. Hearing Moon say this, Bruce and Selena also sat down at the stone table and started eating the snacks on the table. After the tea, Moon looked at the 2 people in front of him and asked, "What do you think you lack the most now?" "What's missing the most?" The 2 looked at each other, and then expressed their guesses. "I think what we lack most is the ability to protect ourselves." Bruce said, "I have been attacked by assassins more than once. Facing their attacks, I can only keep dodging and looking for opportunities to fight back. I think what we lack most is power." Selena gave her own answer, like Bruce said, he has been attacked by the assassins more than once. If we can master strong enough power, we won't be forced to flee around by those assassins. Although the 2 people's statements were different, they both expressed the same meaning, they lacked the power to deal with the enemy. Although the 2 of them are now strong enough to deal with most criminals, killers like the Beastmen are not people they can deal with easily. Not to mention, there are a lot of such killers. Once they encounter those killers, they will soon be surrounded by them. This is also the key reason why they have been avoiding those killers. Well, it seems that you all have a clear understanding of yourselves. He nodded with satisfaction. The two students had a clear understanding of themselves, which was a good thing. He took out a box from under the stone table and looked at them. This is the gift I brought to you. It can protect and enhance your strength very well. As he spoke, he opened the box and took out the combat suit made by Howard. These combat suits were specially made by Howard to perfectly fit anyone and any body shape. He gave one to Bruce and one to Selena, and then looked at Alfred who was standing beside him. Afu, this is for you. If you wear it, you won't be like this anymore. Alfred was very surprised when he took the combat suit thrown to him by Mu-En. He didn't expect that Mu-En had prepared one for him. The three of them looked at the combat uniform carefully. They were all a little confused. Could this uniform really be like Mu-En described? Don't just stand there, you'll understand once you put on your combat uniforms. At Mu-En's reminder, several people returned to the room and began to put on their combat uniforms. After a while, 3 people dressed in pure white returned to the garden. As the oldest one, Alfred felt the most deeply about the combat suit. After completing the equipment of the combat suit, he felt that his strength had been greatly enhanced. He felt that with his current strength, if he faced those killers again, he could easily get rid of them. Is this the power you hold, teacher? Bruce also felt the powerful strength brought by the battlesuit. He felt that he could lift the stone flower bed in the garden easily. If he had such power when he was being hunted before, he could have used this powerful force to fight those killers and even defeated them easily. My power. After drinking the tea in the cup, Moon looked at Bruce and shook his head slightly. This is not the power I control. This power is too weak. These words shocked the 3 of them. The force that seemed extremely powerful to them was extremely weak to Mu-En. They could tell that Mu-En looked down upon the power brought by the combat suit. Perhaps in Mu-En's eyes, this combat suit was just a piece of clothing. However, they were not too entangled. Instead, they were more curious about Mu-En's strength. How strong is Mu-En? Teacher, I have always been curious about the extent of your strength. Bruce asked what everyone was thinking. My strength. Mu-En touched his chin and thought for a while, then looked at the 3 people and said, let's put it this way, even if those killers wear this kind of combat uniform, they are no different from ordinary people in front of me. These combat suits were created by Howard by combining the technology of the Skrulls and the Kree. Although the combat suits can provide a certain amount of power, they can only provide a certain amplification. It is just to enable humans to have enough counterattack power when fighting against alien fleets. If the combat suit Howard made could reach the point where it could fight him, then Fury and Howard wouldn't have to worry about the future of the Earth. After getting Mu-En's answer, several people looked at each other and were all stunned. Mu-En's news shocked them too much. Chapter 165. Undercurrent. After sitting in the garden for a while, Mu-En was speechless about their performance. This is not how combat uniforms are used, and don't they feel weird wearing white combat uniforms? In desperation, Mu-En had to instruct them to use the controllers on their wrists to change the shape of the combat suits so that the combat suits gradually disappeared from their bodies. You guys! Mu-En was speechless about the performance of these people. Arkham Asylum. As a psychiatric doctor, Dr. Hugo walked into the basement with a smile. There were frozen corpses hanging there just like in the past. Next to these corpses are huge glass jars that can hold humans. The tank was filled with green gas, making it impossible to see what was inside the tank. The new poison formula improved from the venomous snake formula is about to succeed. I don't know what the effect of the new poison will be. Since obtaining the formula of Viper, Dr. Hugo began to conduct experiments. Viper can stimulate human potential, but it does so by burning calcium in the body. This suicide drug was not what he wanted, so he kept modifying the Viper formula and experimenting on Arkham patients and street vagrants. At the beginning, the experimental subjects always had various problems, among which the most severe problem was the consumption of calcium in bones. But with his continuous improvements, the side effects of Viper gradually changed, and the consumption of calcium gradually decreased, but problems also appeared in other aspects. The bodies of many experimental subjects underwent changes. Their bodies became very strong, and they could even supplement calcium through various calcium foods. However, the side effect was that they became as ferocious as wild beasts, and some even lost their human sanity and completely became beasts. Afterwards, the organization hidden in the darkness of Gotham sent a drop of strange green liquid. With the help of that strange liquid, the side effects of the new poison he was researching were alleviated. Although it would still change a person's appearance, they could maintain their sanity. After completing his research, the organization left with his research, and soon after, he heard the news that Wayne Manor was attacked. And those changes in the killers also gave him new ideas for the research of new poisons. Perhaps he could change the formula again so that the subjects' bodies would not change and they could still gain powerful strength. The subjects locked in these glass jars now are his experimental subjects, and the green gas is the new poison he improved. Don't let me down. Looking at these jars, Dr. Hugo muttered. Your poison doesn't work. Most of those transformed killers have been dealt with. In the shadow of the basement, a man stood among the corpses and said. Those modified killers were almost all killed in one blow. An existence they had never known appeared in Gotham and eliminated these experimental killers. This aroused the interest of Dr. Hugo. Although the new poison was still a semi-finished product, the sane Beast Man created did possess extremely powerful power. The Beast Man is simply not someone that ordinary people can resist. Even if the Gotham Police Department wants to capture the irrational Beast Man and send him back to Arkham, they still have to rely on a large amount of special equipment to complete the capture of the Beast Man. But now, this guy told himself that most of the Beastman killers who remained sane had been dealt with. This surprised him greatly. No one knew the power of the Beastman better than him, unless the one who killed the Beastman killer also possessed powerful power. Almost, the new poison will be ready soon. Dr. Hugo pointed to several huge glass jars and said with a smile, as long as the experiment is completed, you will get a more powerful killer. I hope you can make something that satisfies us, otherwise you know what will happen. As the words were spoken, the figure standing among the frozen corpses disappeared instantly. Dr. Hugo didn't care about the threat posed by the figure. He looked at the glass jars where experiments were being conducted and left the basement with a smile on his face. Although the new poison he was developing had a much stronger effect than in the past, he was now very curious about who had killed those Beastman killers. It's really interesting. I hope you won't disappoint me too much. Dr. Hugo stood in front of the window, looking at the dark and gloomy forest outside, with anticipation in his eyes. Gotham Police Department these days, Gordon and his partner Harvey are almost going crazy with work. They recently sent all the Beastmen to Arkham Asylum, but more Beastmen appeared. Listen to me, Gordon. This case is not simple at first glance. It's best if we don't get involved. Harvey was very resistant to this case. He has been in the Gotham Police Department for all these years by never getting involved in troublesome cases. But after forming a partnership with Gordon, he had to investigate cases that he had never intervened in the past with Gordon. I know Harvey, I'll go check out the morgue first. Casually dealing with his partner, Gordon hurried to the morgue. He needed to get some useful information from the forensic doctor. In the morgue, there were a large number of stitched corpses, and in front of one of the corpses stood a fully armed doctor. Did you find any useful information? Yes. The doctor turned around. These bodies were torn apart in an instant. In other words, they encountered an opponent who could tear them apart. This made Gordon take a deep breath. If he heard correctly, these Beastmen were torn apart. Are you sure? These guys are all Beastmen. You know how abnormal the physical fitness of Beastmen is. The physical fitness of the Beastmen is far superior to that of ordinary humans. They had dissected a dead Beastman before, and they were all stunned by the Beastman's physical fitness. The physical fitness of the dissected Beastman was 5 times that of an ordinary person. If they had not used special equipment to capture the Beastman, they would have been unable to do anything to them. But now, he received this shocking news from the doctor. These Beastmen, who required them to use special equipment to capture, were actually torn to pieces. Who on earth was so powerful that he could tear the Beastman in half? The doctor answered very seriously. I am sure that the wounds of these Beastmen are very clean. They were killed and torn into pieces instantly. However, the injuries of the Beastmen over there are somewhat different. Although they were also killed in one blow, their bodies are all intact. After hearing the doctor's words, Gordon walked towards the body. He wanted to find information about the killer from the body. Chapter 166. Special Training for Two Little Ones. After obtaining the combat suits, Bruce and Selina's combat effectiveness was greatly improved. If they could easily deal with most ordinary people before, now when they face those Beastmen killers, they no longer have to hide around like they did in the past. They can even use the powerful force brought by the combat suits to eliminate these beastmen killers. However, they did not choose to attack. Moon detained them in Wayne Manor and gave them special training. Although the combat suits gave them very good strength, it also caused some problems in their control of the strength. After being equipped with combat uniforms, they could not control their own strength very well. Sometimes their strength was too weak to pick up a small object, and sometimes their strength was too great and they would accidentally destroy things in the manor. Because of this, Alfred has been extremely tired in the manor these days. He has been dealing with the destruction caused by Bruce and Selina every day. Even though they are just 2 teenagers, after they are equipped with combat uniforms, they can easily destroy the sculptures in the manor with their bare hands. Without using any tools, just using your bare hands, you can easily destroy the sculpture carved out of marble. This gave them a deeper understanding of combat uniforms. After all, the 2 men did not intentionally destroy the sculptures. They just used a little more force. However, even with a little more force, they completely destroyed the hard marble statues. Alfred was both sad and happy about this situation. Although dealing with these damaged statues kept him extremely busy, he was particularly happy after seeing the strength shown by Bruce and Selina. If Bruce had obtained the combat suit before, he would not have been forced out of Wayne Manor by those killers and forced to struggle for survival in the dark corners of Gotham. But the situation is not bad now. Not only has Mu-En returned, but they have also received gifts from Mu-En and obtained combat uniforms that give them powerful strength. You two don't need to be so careful. Only by accepting your own power can you easily master it completely. Moon was lying in a rocking chair basking in the sun, while Bruce and Selina were not far from him, carefully taking eggs out of the basket. The 2 men ignored Mu-En's words. They believed Mu-En's words before and grabbed the eggs in the basket at random, but all the eggs were crushed by them in an instant. But the price they paid was that they had to eat all the crushed eggs, and they called it not wasting food. God knows how difficult it was for the 2 of them to eat that meal. When you take a bite, most of it is the eggshells that have not been picked clean. This time they no longer believed their teacher, but reached for the eggs in the basket cautiously, fearing that the eggs would burst if they used a little force. But no matter how careful they were, the eggs were inevitably crushed. Click, the eggshell broke with a faint sound, and Bruce's face suddenly froze, and then he took his hand covered with egg liquid out of the basket. Ha, I told you to accept your power, Bruce. You can't do without the fried egg shells today. Seeing Bruce's hands covered with egg liquid, Moon, who was lying in the rocking chair, laughed. His 2 students were still too immature. If they were always worried about destroying things, they would never be able to master the power of the combat suits. Hearing Moon's joking voice, Serena couldn't help but laugh, and then a cracking sound was heard from the basket in front of her, which made her smile stop. It was obvious that her eggshell was also broken. You guys! Mu-En sighed and shook his head at the 2 of them. A whirlpool appeared in his hand. Under the influence of the whirlpool, the fallen leaves in the garden gathered towards Mu-En. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a large, solid ball of fallen leaves, spinning rapidly in his hands. Mastering your own strength does not rely on brute force. Of course, if you have absolute power, you can still exert good strength even if you only use brute force. Remember what I said when I was teaching you how to master fighting stances? Skills are an extension of strength. If you want to master fighting skills, you must be able to use your own strength like an arm. As he spoke, Mu-En slapped the falling leaf ball towards the 2 people. The falling leaf ball was similar to the eggs in the basket. It seemed very complete, but if their strength exceeded the upper limit of the falling leaf ball would explode in their hands. Use your strength to keep this falling leaf ball going. Looking at the falling leaves thrown by Mu-En, Bruce subconsciously grabbed the falling leaves. After hearing Mu-En's words, he couldn't help but retract his hand. He didn't have the confidence to keep the falling leaf ball. Selina on the side was very decisive and pounced towards the falling leaf ball. She knew very well that she, like Bruce, could not keep the falling leaf ball going. It was even possible that the moment she touched the falling leaf ball formed by a large number of fallen leaves would instantly scatter. But she still pounced on the falling leaf ball. She was never afraid of any challenge. Anyway, now that they had ordered the fried egg shells, she would not worry no matter what happened. The moment she touched the ball of falling leaves, it exploded as expected, and Selina and Bruce were instantly covered by countless falling leaves. Remember what I just said. If you want to master your power, accept it completely. After being reminded by Moon again, Bruce and Selena walked out from the fallen leaves, holding a leaf that had been crushed into pieces in their hands. Perhaps they could start with simpler exercises. When they can pick up the leaf intact, they will be close to success. The two men kept picking up leaves from the ground. Large pieces of fallen leaves were crushed by them, but this did not stop them. The two men did not stop for a moment and used the power brought by their combat suits with all their strength. At first, the juice from the large fallen leaves spread all over their hands, dyeing their hands green. Gradually, the two suddenly discovered that they could actually control their own strength a little bit. Although their attacks were still rough, they clearly felt that their control over power was improving. They are no longer completely unable to control their own power as before, but can now exercise a certain degree of control over their power. It seems like you finally understand. Before they know the limits of their own strength, they have no idea how strong their own strength is, and this will greatly affect their judgment of their own strength. Because they don't know their own limits, they can easily misjudge their own strength, causing them to use too much or too little strength. And now that they are using their own strength to the fullest, they have a certain understanding of their own strength. After knowing the limits of their own strength, they can master their own strength more quickly. Chapter 167. The two people who stirred up Gotham. With the special training of the two, their control over their own strength has been greatly improved, and fewer fallen leaves on the ground were destroyed. They can already make good use of the power brought by combat suits, and can even unleash even more powerful power through combat postures. After Muen's training, the two now possess enough power to deal with those beast-like killers. The combat suits sent by Muen gave them powerful strength. Now they no longer have to worry about those killers who suddenly come to their door. The two of them are even eager to go out and fight those guys with real guns. Muen was not surprised at their thoughts. Whether it is Bruce or Selena, they are still young at heart. Now that they have such power, it is normal for them to want to fight back against those guys. However, if they want to go out and fight those beastmen killers, they must pass his test and hold on in his hands for 1 minute. Yes, you just need to hold on in Muen's hands for 1 minute, and this is when Muen only uses a small part of his strength. Otherwise, even if the two of them fully mastered the power of the combat suits, they would not be able to survive for a single breath in his hands. Bruce and Selena were full of confidence. In their opinion, even if they were no match for the teacher, they could still hold on for a minute. With this mysterious confidence, the two of them came to Muen together. "We are ready, Sensei." As soon as Bruce finished speaking, a vortex appeared in Moon's hand. The moment the vortex appeared, a powerful suction force appeared around Muen, making the two of them feel tremendous pressure in an instant. "I say, you two little guys, aren't you a little too confident? It's not that easy to hold on for a minute in my hands." Moon's face was calm. This level was nothing to him, but for Bruce and Selena, even with the support of their combat suits, it was still difficult for them to move forward. The two of them retreated backwards with difficulty, trying hard to break away from the suction emitted by Muen. "Ha, you were very confident just now? Why do you look like this now?" Muen teased the two of them, and now they no longer looked so confident. After hearing Muen's teasing, Lianjun's face turned red and he felt ashamed of his previous arrogance. Now Muen didn't even attack, but just used one move to make things so difficult for them. If Muen attacked, they would probably not be able to hold on for a few breaths. Fortunately, Muen did not do so. The reason why he let the two pass his test was not because he thought they were no match for those beastmen killers, but because the two had been too confident in their own strength recently, and their hearts had become much inflated. Now he must let them know that there are always people better than them. While the two were resisting the suction of the vortex, Bruce pulled out a dagger from his waist, stuck it into the ground, and used the dagger to resist the suction. His actions reminded Selena, and she did the same, using a dagger to stay away from the vortex in Moon's hand. Moon was a little surprised by the behavior of the two. Bruce could actually come up with this method. Although this method was not beautiful, it was indeed a good method. The two tried hard to escape from the vortex around Muen. Although Muen was holding back, it did show Bruce's ability to cope with the battle. His on-the-spot reaction in the battle has been demonstrated. As long as Bruce can keep it up and use his own strength to continue fighting, he will be like the Dark Knight in Moon's memory. No matter what problem he faces, he can deal with it easily. Seeing that the two had escaped from the vortex, Muen immediately retracted his power, looked at the two and nodded gently. "Okay, let's consider that you two have passed the test. Now that Bruce and Selina have mastered their powers, and their temporary reactions are very quick, he is very confident about their conditions. After getting Moon's approval, Bruce and Selina seemed particularly excited. They finally passed Moon's test. Although they passed with some tricks, they did gain Moon's recognition. "We made it." The two looked at each other, and they could finally walk out of Wayne Manor and attack those beastmen killers. The two men armed themselves fully, carrying their own weapons, and returned to downtown Gotham under the cover of night. They wanted to eliminate all the beastmen killers who were chasing them. Moon and Alfred stood at the window of Wayne Manor, watching the two people leave and looking forward to tomorrow's news. Afu, guess what the outcome of their battle was? Master Bruce and Miss Selina have obtained their combat uniforms. There should be no one in Gotham who can threaten them now. Of all the people he had met, except Moon, no one else was a match for Bruce and Selina, who were equipped with combat suits. Even the beastmen who broke his arm were no match for Bruce and Selina. No matter how powerful those beastmen killers were, they would be no match for the two men in combat uniforms. This was Alfred's true feeling after experiencing the combat suit. The combat suit gave them powerful enough strength. Not to mention Bruce and Selina, even Alfred couldn't help but want to try the power of the combat suit. "Although what you said is true, but what if?" Muen smiled and shook his head. His arm instantly transformed into Titania Phantom Butterfly Fairy, summoning a large number of razor butterflies. To protect them, and if they are in trouble, to help them with their enemies. The razor butterflies carried energy butterflies and flew to all parts of Gotham, and the people who were still preparing for Gotham's nightlife also saw this strange sight. Those blue energy butterflies shocked the people of Gotham, and some even wanted to capture these energy butterflies. However, without exception, they all failed. The energy butterflies were formed by pure energy. The insect nets used to capture ordinary butterflies were not only ineffective against energy butterflies, but also burned a big hole in their insect nets. Under the cover of those energy butterflies, a large number of razor butterflies flew silently in the air, following Bruce and Selina's footsteps, heading towards the place where the most beastmen gathered. At this time, all the beastmen killers were gathered together. The previous loss of a large number of beastmen killers caused some voices to appear within the organization, and they strongly opposed the continued development of beastmen killers. But their reasons were so ridiculous. There were actually human rights defenders in a killer organization. This had nothing to do with them, the killers. Even other people would find it ridiculous when they heard it. Chapter 168. Gotham's Justice Envoy. These days, two messengers of justice wandering in the darkness suddenly appeared in Gotham, and both of them were dressed strangely. A man moved swiftly, wearing a black mask with pointed ears, looking like a black cat in the dark. The dagger in his hand flew up and down like a cat's claws, leaving scars on their bodies at any time. The other person also wore a black mask with pointed ears. Although his flexibility was slightly worse than the previous one, he possessed more powerful strength, especially the sharp darts shot from his hands, which defeated many evildoers. With the two messengers of justice roaming around, the originally chaotic Gotham has now regained a stable order. Many ambitious people have concentrated their forces and ordered all their people to guard against the two messengers of justice. In their minds, chaos is the true meaning of Gotham's existence. An orderly Gotham is not what they want. After all, the more chaotic it is, the more power they can gain and the more power they can use to rule Gotham. However, these rulers did not expel or become enemies with the two messengers of justice. The appearance of the beast killers made them also on guard. The power wielded by these foreign killers was too strong. The weapons and guns in their hands could also be used by these killers, but they could not master the powerful power like the beast killers. These rulers gathered their forces and just watched the show, wanting to see the hostile battle between the beastmen killers and the two messengers of justice, and wanting to gain some understanding of them. However, this did not affect Bruce and Selina's hearts. They originally wanted to cause trouble for the beastman killer. As for the others, it was just a whim on their part. It has to be said that being a volunteer policeman to protect their own city is indeed a good choice for the two of them. The power they now possess is enough to deal with most problems, and in battle, they can also improve their strength and combat skills to a certain extent, so as to master more powerful power. In the dark alley, 3 beastmen killers live here. They are assigned to find Bruce and Selina here. Most of the beastmen are gathered together to strengthen their strength, and these 3 are the first beastmen to complete the strengthening. The reason why they were assigned here together, in addition to finding Bruce and Selina, was to experiment with their strength. As the first batch of beastmen with enhanced strength, their strength was related to the power of many beastmen killers. Where do you think they are hiding? Why can't I smell either of them? A beastman asked the two people around him puzzledly. As a beastman, his sensitivity to smell far exceeded that of any animal. Logically speaking, with his ability, he should be able to find Bruce and Selina faster than anyone else. But the result was disappointing to him. No matter how he analyzed the various smells in the air, he could not find the scent of Bruce and Selina. These two people seemed to have disappeared from Gotham, and there was no scent of them in the entire Gotham. Who knows? Even though they are both teenagers, they must have their own ways to escape the organization's pursuit and hide until now. Another killer said. Shoo! A silver light flashed through the air, and the next moment, a beastman killer had a silver kunai on his body, and the kunai almost completely sank into the beastman killer's arm. Then, a voice came. You seem to be looking for someone? Do you need help? Following the sound came two black figures, and they were the legendary messengers of justice in Gotham. Bruce and Selina have been looking for these beastmen killers. They have dealt with quite a few beastmen before, but as they acted, more and more beastmen killers disappeared. They couldn't find the beastman killers at all and could only search everywhere, which was the main reason why they became Gotham's vigilantes. It can be said that without these beastman killers, the two would never be where they are now. And now, they found 3 lone beastman killers here. Seeing these 3 strong beastman killers with hideous faces, Bruce and Selina both remembered everything they had experienced before. If Muen had not met Razor Butterfly to save them, they would probably be on the run now. Hearing the two people's voices and seeing them slowly approaching, the 3 beastman killers instantly entered combat status and put on gas masks. However, there was no poison gas spreading out from their bodies. Instead, the purification pumps of the gas masks continuously sprayed out poison gas which was inhaled into their bodies. Under the influence of the poison gas, the bodies of the 3 beastmen became stronger. Suddenly a beastman jumped up, the nails on his fingers became unusually sharp, he raised his hand and swung it out violently, a sharp sound of breaking through the air was heard, and he grabbed towards the 2 men. Faced with this sudden attack, Bruce and Selina were not surprised. Instead, they stepped back and easily avoided the sudden attack. Although such an attack was powerful, it was still too weak compared to the pressure that Muen brought to the 2 of them. Although they were no match for Muen together, after feeling the tremendous pressure that Muen brought to them, such an attack was too easy for them. After seeing the beastman launching an attack, Selina untied the long whip from her waist and whipped the beastman hard. Buzzing bee sting, the long whip lashed towards the 3 beastman killers like a pincer. With the enhancement of the combat suit, the long whip exerted even more powerful force. Even these 3 strengthened beastman killers were beaten and fled away when facing Selina's long whip. Although the physical fitness of these 3 beastmen has become far superior to that of normal people under the influence of the poison gas, the combat suits made by Howard are not vegetarian either, and their effects are even far superior to the amplifying effects of the poison gas that have not yet passed the experiment. The intense pain brought by the long whip made several beastmen killers realize the threat that the long whip posed to them. Although the poison gas increased their strength, the increase in their strength also came at a price. Although their strength became stronger, their sanity was greatly reduced. Although the pain made them aware of the threat posed by the whip, several beastmen killers who had lost some of their sanity did not dodge the whip swung by Selina. Instead, they planned to attack forcefully and directly eliminate Selina, who posed a huge threat to them. But Selina was not a robot. After seeing these attackers, she lightly jumped to a distance and easily avoided all attacks from the beast killers. Chapter 169. Gotham Riot. What's more, Bruce was there to assist him. A rapier appeared in Bruce's hand, and he stabbed the attackers fiercely. Like Selina's whip, Bruce's rapier also exerts powerful power. It can even be said that Bruce's rapier is the most skillful one among all the moves he has mastered. And this was the first weapon of combat skills that Bruce mastered when he was learning. The combat skills that Moon demonstrated at that time left a very deep impression on him. Now he can finally fully demonstrate the combat skills that Moon demonstrated at that time. The rapier danced wildly in Bruce's hand like a silver snake. The combination of the real and the virtual made it hard to guard against. Several bloody holes appeared on the bodies of the attacking beastmen killers, and blood flowed out of them, dripping onto the ground. This drove the 3 beastmen killers crazy. They gasped for breath, inhaled the poisonous gas from the masks, and their clothes were constantly being torn. This is the rapier move that Bruce has mastered, Cunning Fox and Deceptive Mask. He has completely mastered the essence of this fighting posture. The swift and fierce attack method allows him to easily face these beastmen killers who have obviously become stronger. The rapier kept swinging in Bruce's hand, and the shadows of the rapier burst out from everywhere, making it impossible for the three beastmen killers to move forward. With the cooperation of the two, they took advantage of the beastmen killers who were constantly losing their minds in the poison gas and made the three beastmen killers run around in circles. In the end, the three beastmen killers could not withstand the poison gas for long, and their bodies continued to swell like balloons, and finally exploded in front of the two men. "Well done!" Selena praised. "You too," Bruce responded. The two of them gained a lot from the actions of these days, especially the fighting postures, which were improved through the constant training of battles. If before they were only proficient in the use of postures, now their mastery of postures has reached the level of being able to act according to circumstances. No matter what action the opponent takes, they can react the instant the opponent takes action. After praising each other, the two looked back at the bodies of the beastmen killers that had suddenly exploded. They had just seen clearly that these beastmen killers would gradually lose their minds as their combat effectiveness increased. It was okay at the beginning, they were still able to maintain a certain degree of rationality, and sometimes the attacks they launched were even beyond their expectations. But later, after these beastmen killers gradually lost their sanity, their strength was greatly enhanced, but they seemed to have turned into real beasts, and all their attacks came from their instincts. That was the instinctive reaction of a beast after it felt threatened. Whether it was fighting back against Selena's whip attack or going crazy after being stabbed by Bruce's rapier, these were things that only a pure beast would do. If I'm not mistaken, there's something wrong with their gas masks. The beastmen killers they had dealt with before did not have the habit of wearing gas masks, and their strength was also balanced. They would not gradually lose their minds like these guys as their strength continued to increase. But the three beastmen killers in front of him who had been blown to pieces were all wearing gas masks, and their strength could be continuously improved. As he spoke, Bruce pressed the control button on his arm, and the black mask turned into a full mask, completely wrapping his body. This is the combat suit's comprehensive defense mode, which protects the wearer from any harm. After fully arming himself, Bruce carefully picked up the three gas masks from the debris on the ground. "We have to ask Alfred to get Wayne Group's equipment when we get back so we can study it carefully." After saying that, he looked at Selena beside him. The two looked at each other and nodded slightly, then disappeared into the darkness together. Not long after they left, a claw dressed as an owl with two swords on his back appeared in this place. He looked carefully at the body fragments on the ground. The lenses on the owl mask emitted a faint green light in the darkness. After seeing the situation of these beastmen killers, Claw jumped suddenly and disappeared into the bushes. Wayne Manor Muen is learning profound knowledge from the void, and he has a new understanding of advanced amplitude crystals and empowerment. Although he still hasn't mastered the manufacturing of rift crystals, he has a deeper understanding of amplitude crystals. He can completely create some amplitude crystals with special effects according to the empowerment of powerful fusion force. Taking out the casting cabin from the space module, Muen operated it, trying to make an amplitude crystal of his own. Muen did not have high expectations for this amplitude crystal. After all, he did not fully master the manufacturing of amplitude crystals and could only modify the existing ones. To be on the safe side, he could only modify the lowest level red copper amplitude crystal, and he chose the amplitude crystal pressure point with the most obvious effect. Pressure points are amplitude crystals that provide melee weapons with destructive power. A good weapon will become more powerful after gaining pressure points. And now, the pressure point has been changed beyond recognition in his hands. Of course, Muen did not make random changes. He made the changes according to the most basic spell circuit of Camartage. After completely transforming the amplitude crystal, Muen fused the amplitude crystal onto a half-meter long stick. He waved the short stick a few times and a light blue whip appeared on the stick. When it hit the ground, countless blue sparks flew out. Those were the pressure points of the amplitude crystal that he had modified. As a pressure point of the body, it cannot provide destructive power for melee weapons now, but it can allow the equipment to produce a magic whip used by the mages in Camartage. Hey, a magical weapon that summons a whip? This thing is suitable for me. If it is equipment that incorporates pressure points, anyone can use it and exert the enhanced effect. But now the reinforcement circuit has been replaced by Camartage's spell circuit, which not only makes the reinforcement power of the pressure point disappear, but also prevents anyone from feeling the powerful force contained therein. Except for people like him who can master energy, no one else can unleash the full power of this short stick. In their hands, this short stick is almost the same as an ordinary short stick. By the way, if we integrate the magic circuit of Kamar-Taj's portal into the amplitude crystal, can we open the portal anytime and anywhere? Just as he was thinking about it, Bruce and Selina had already returned, and Alfred immediately took the blood-stained gas masks from Bruce's hands. Chapter 170. Gotham Riot, Part. The style of these gas masks is very new, and as Bruce's temporary guardian, Alfred is not too familiar with such gas masks. These are produced by the Wayne Group, and they are the latest models. They should not have been put into large-scale production yet. Bruce was startled when he heard Alfred's words, but then he understood the reason. Although it is unknown how those Beastmen killers came into being, the ones who ordered them must be the top executives of Wayne Company. Because before being frequently attacked by the killers, Bruce had met with these senior executives. His proposals did not gain their support, and they were even unwilling to listen to his opinions. When he proposed to renovate Arkham Asylum, the senior executives all looked reluctant. At first, he just thought that these people were unwilling to listen to the opinions of a child like him, but now it seems that he has touched these people's cake. The failure of the initial killers gave these people some different ideas. They sent out more killers and even found a way to transform the Beastman, turning all those killers into more powerful Beastman killers, forcing him to hide from pursuit everywhere in Gotham. The poison gas in this mask is quite interesting. Muen's voice suddenly rang out, and a gas mask in Muen's hand emitted a faint green poison gas. A wisp of poisonous gas was flowing through his nostrils, making him feel that his body was being destroyed and strengthened at the same time. Although this poison gas has little effect on him, if an ordinary person absorbs the poison gas, his body functions will be greatly improved. Of course, the price of doing so is the rapid consumption of cells throughout the body. If one rashly absorbs such poisonous gas without undergoing special modification, their bodies will become extremely fragile, and they will eventually be unable to withstand the enhanced poisonous gas and die. This poison gas does more harm than good and is of no benefit at all to most people. Among these people in Gotham, only the Beastmen killers who are hunting Bruce and his men can afford the price of this thing. It seems you can already make good use of the battle suits. Muen nodded. He was very satisfied with the performance of the two. The strengthening effect of the poison gas could even be compared with the amplification effect of the combat suit. Although it could only reach the lowest state of the combat suit, it was enough to make them surpass most ordinary people. Bruce and Selina were shy about Moon's praise. How could they have defeated the other party? They were just playing tricks on the three beast killers. It was their own excessive intake of poison gas that made their bodies unable to bear it and eventually exploded. How do you feel about being a volunteer police officer these days? I feel great. I never thought that one day I would be able to maintain order in Gotham myself. I don't really feel anything, I just feel that my power can reach a much higher level. Bruce and Selina have completely opposite attitudes, which is also the difference caused by their living environment. Bruce wants to fulfill his parents' wishes and build a more perfect Gotham. His every move is working towards this goal. But Selina is different. As a homeless teenager, she works hard for her future every day. Now she has mastered more powerful power, which makes her full of expectations for her future. Of course, it feels good to be a volunteer police officer. Neither Selina nor Bruce would deny that they like this feeling. Well, I can see that you really like being a volunteer police officer. In that case, I will give you 2 more gifts. After saying that, Muen returned to his room. His stuff was not finished yet, and now he was thinking about whether to add a portal to the weapon. The energy whip carried by the short stick was just right for Selina. This girl was quite good at using the whip and she could easily use most of the whip moves. As for Bruce, Moon plans to give him a special rapier. On the one hand, it can test the effect of the amplitude crystal integrated with the spell circuit. On the other hand, it can enhance Bruce's combat effectiveness. Not only can it release special means of attack, but it can also make it easier to get support. This time, he modified the pressure point into a spell circuit of a portal. It was originally just an amplitude crystal that increased the destructive power of melee weapons, but now it has become a special weapon that can create space cracks. As long as Bruce can activate the amplitude crystal fused to the weapon, he can use this weapon to open a space rift, which can not only cause huge damage to the enemy, but also allow himself to get support at any time. With the previous transformation experience, this time the transformation of the amplitude crystal became much easier. The reinforcement circuit on the amplitude crystal was quickly transformed into a spell circuit. The transformed amplitude crystal was fused by Moon into Bruce's rapier. The rapier emitted faint power fluctuations in Moon's hand, and as the rapier continued to be swung, light blue energy sparks appeared in the air. Wherever the rapier passed, the space there seemed to be cut apart, and a strange tearing feeling appeared. This was the spell circuit of the portal learned from Ancient One. This amplitude crystal is quite interesting. In the future, Bruce might be able to release a dimensional slash or something. This crystal gives this rapier special attacking abilities, which can allow Bruce to burst out with even more powerful strength. Just imagine how interesting it would be if a Batman who could penetrate space appeared. Bruce has no superpowers, so he would let Bruce master special powers. He is looking forward to what the world will be like when Bruce meets his destined enemies in the future. Compared to Mu-N's imagination, Bruce and Selina were very much looking forward to the gift that Mu-N was about to give them. The two of them lowered their heads and whispered about what Mu-N would give them. "Selina, what do you think the teacher will give us?" Bruce asked curiously. He really wanted to know what Mu-N would give them. "I guess he'll give us a weapon, like this dagger." Shaking the dagger in her hand, Selina responded with a smile. As a volunteer police officer, they have no special weapons except this dagger. She guessed that both she and Bruce would be able to get a powerful weapon, just like the police officers in the Gotham Police Department would get their own guns, and they would also have their own weapons and equipment. Weapon. Bruce smiled and nodded. This was what he guessed in his heart. Perhaps the biggest reward for them becoming Gotham's volunteer police would be the weapons that their teacher was about to give them. Chapter 171. Not long after, Moon came up to the two of them with two weapons. Bruce and Selina looked at the rapier and short stick in Moon's hands and fell into deep thought. If nothing unexpected happens, the rapier should belong to Bruce, and the short stick should belong to Selina. But these two weapons looked really ordinary, not even as eye-catching as the daggers in their hands. "Teacher, what are the two weapons in your hands?" Bruce asked curiously. Could it be that the two weapons in Moon's hands were gifts for them? A rapier that looked nothing special, and a short stick that looked even more ordinary. "Yes, this is your gift." As soon as he finished speaking, Mu-N saw the two people's eyes of disbelief, as if asking, did the teacher prepare for so long just to give them two such weapons? "You seem a little disappointed." Mu-N smiled and picked up the two weapons. Energy flashed in his hands, and the two weapons underwent strange changes. A long whip formed by energy appeared on the short stick. When it was swung in the air, it made no sound at all. It was tangible and intangible, and it was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Such a long whip attracted Selina's attention. Such a long whip would not make any strange noises, allowing her to better exert her combat capabilities. Bruce was also attracted by the rapier in Moon's hand. Although the appearance of the rapier did not change, the blue sparks that occasionally burst out from it attracted his attention. He found that the space next to the rapier seemed to be distorting, like an object emitting high temperature, and the scorching temperature distorted the space. But he could see clearly that the rapier in Mu-N's hand was not emitting high temperature. Those blue sparks were the key to distorting space. "Teacher, this sword?" Bruce asked Moon, "is this what the weapon really looks like?" "This sword, like this short stick, needs energy to drive it. Without energy, they are no different from ordinary weapons. But if you can find a suitable energy to drive them, these two weapons will be like what I have now. The short stick will become a long whip, and this rapier will have the special power to cut through space." After saying that, Mu-N brought a few people to the garden. "Stay away from me. I will show you the true capabilities of these two weapons." After warning a few people, Mu-N came to an open place in the garden, swung the long energy whip in his hand fiercely, and in an instant it hit the flower bed. Because it was made up of energy, and Mu-N did not deliberately try to capture the flower bed, the whip directly split the flower bed into two. The energy whip was like a sharp blade, piercing through the flower bed in an instant. Then Mu-N swung the rapier in his other hand. After leaving a series of energy sparks in the air, several people were surprised to find that a strange place appeared in the location surrounded by the energy sparks, a place that had never appeared in Wayne Manor. "How was it? Wasn't it interesting?" Mu-N asked with a smile. Although both weapons were fused with the prototype amplitude crystal, it did not mean that both weapons were scraps. The fusion of two different amplitude crystals gave the two weapons different powers. One could swing a long whip at any time, while the other could open up space and even directly release attacks with space attributes. Looking at the two weapons in Moon's hands, Bruce and Selena were very excited. Such weapons were perfect for them. Sure enough, as a volunteer police officer, they must have their own weapons. Okay, now these two weapons are yours. After handing the two weapons to the two men, Mu-En said with a smile, if you want to unleash the power of these two weapons, it depends on your own abilities. At first, the two did not understand what Mu-En meant. They just thought that Mu-En was reminding them to continue to strengthen the use and training of combat skills. But after getting the weapons, the two discovered the problem. They seemed unable to make full use of the effects of these two weapons. No matter whether it was the rapier or the short stick, there was no change in their hands. The scene just seen from Mu-En's hands seemed to be just an illusion. No matter how they waved their weapons, they could not make the two weapons appear, and change like the ones in Mu-En's hands. Ha, I've told you all. If you want to unleash their power, it all depends on your own abilities. Mu-En laughed and looked at the two of them. I'll give you a hint. Don't forget everything you just saw. After leaving a hint, Mu-En left. He had a lot of things to do, and this was just a small problem for the two of them, a small test of their observation and analytical abilities. Bruce and Selena did not delay too long. They immediately recalled the states of the two weapons just now. Whether it was the long whip extending from the short stick or the blue sparks on the rapier, they were all made up of energy. Perhaps the ability that Mu-En was referring to was the method to charge these two weapons. If the two of them had the method to charge the two weapons, they might be able to make their respective weapons appear as they did when they were in Mu-En's hands. Thinking of this, the two of them couldn't help but get excited. As long as they mastered the method of charging their weapons, they might be able to split the flower bed in two with a long whip like Mu-En did, and use a rapier to distort the space or even open a space channel. If I remember correctly, the energy of the combat suit seems to be usable. Doesn't that mean we can? As they spoke, the two looked at each other. They both thought of this method, using the energy of the combat suits to charge their weapons, so that they could use special weapons to fight. And now, what worries them is how they are going to replenish the energy of the combat suit after the energy of the combat suit has been completely consumed. Alfred already had the answer to the two people's doubts in his heart. He had asked Mu-En this question after he got the combat suit. Mu-En also gave him a satisfactory answer. The combat suit can absorb various energies for charging, which also provides a certain guarantee for the endurance of the combat suit. Don't worry, Master Bruce. The combat suit can be charged using various methods, such as plugging in electricity. As he spoke, Alfred took out a connecting wire and connected the module on his arm together. The display module on his arm showed that it was charging. Seeing Alfred's performance, Bruce and Selena looked at each other and then nodded. As long as there is a way to charge them, they can use this combat suit and these two special weapons for a long time in combat without having to worry about running out of energy and turning the combat suit into waste. Thinking of this, the two of them injected the energy of their combat suits into their respective weapons. The short stick in Selena's hand extended into a long whip, and a slight sense of space tearing appeared around Bruce. Chapter 172. Mu-En's equipment made both of them stronger. However, the energy consumption of this new equipment is also very alarming. In just a few minutes, the energy reserves of their combat suits have dropped by 30%. It seems that this thing cannot be used casually. Bruce sighed. Although the new weapons that Mu-En gave them were powerful, what they needed more was the boost from the combat suits. If the energy of the combat suits was exhausted, their combat effectiveness would be greatly reduced. But under normal circumstances, we don't need to use this weapon. The amplification effect of the combat suit alone is enough for us to deal with most enemies. Selena also gave her opinion. This weapon is extremely powerful. For them, they have no need to use such a powerful weapon in normal times. Such a powerful weapon will only be worth using when facing a powerful enemy. That's right. This weapon is not meant for ordinary enemies. If you use this weapon against ordinary people, I would doubt your abilities. Mu-En said with a smile. For them, these two weapons can easily deal with most opponents for a long time in the future, unless the enemy they face is someone with powerful strength. However, such a situation is almost unlikely. After all, most of Gotham's villains are ordinary people, and their abilities are often manifested in their intelligence. They may not have as strong power as the villains in other cities, but if they were to compete in intelligence, it is hard to say who would win or lose. Many of these villains in Gotham are highly intelligent criminal masters. However, these are all things Bruce has to face, and Moon has no interest in these people, so it is better to leave it to Bruce to deal with it himself, just as a test for Bruce. When facing these people, what Bruce really needs to improve is to master more knowledge and skillfully apply this knowledge and his own combat skills to fight these guys. All the leaders of the various gangs in Gotham gathered their subordinates together for a meeting. Not long ago, they received intelligence that 3 Beastmen killers were directly blown to pieces due to excessive expansion of their bodies, and what caused them to become like this were 2 different black shadows. Listen to me, there are more and more weirdos in Gotham now. I don't care what they are doing. You must protect my property. Whether it's this bar or the dance hall next door, there must be no mistakes, otherwise I don't mind hanging you in the harbor to feed the sharks. Standing on the high place was a thin guy. If Muen was there, he would find that this arrogant guy was the coward he had met before. Now he is no longer as timid as he used to be. He looks more like a successful gang leader. Everything he has now is achieved by relying on his own wisdom and constantly collecting various information. If he were an ordinary person, he might just give up. But Cobbard is different. Although he had a low status in the past, he is smart and knows what information is crucial and what all the big guys want. It was with the help of this information that he rose to his current position step by step. Even though he has now become the leader of a gang, he still has not given up collecting all kinds of information. This time, the news was sent to him by his informant, and the other gangs were able to get the news because he passed it on. However, he was still cautious and did not tell the whole story. He did not inform others about the 2 shadows. Everyone knew that 2 vigilantes appeared in Gotham, but no one knew their true identities. In his information network, he still had the outlines of the 2 vigilantes, although the images were very blurry. But he could see that they were 2 young men, but the strength of these 2 young men was a bit too strong. He knew very well the strength of those Beastmen killers. Moreover, in the video, he also saw that the bodies of these Beastmen killers were constantly expanding. Although the Beastmen killer's body exploded due to excessive expansion in the end, before the explosion, the Beastmen killer's body contained more powerful power than a normal Beastman. Oh, one more thing. Find all the gas masks for me, whether they are the latest models or the old ones. Find them all for me. He was very interested in the gas masks worn by the Beastmen killers. He was curious about why these Beastmen killers wore gas masks inexplicably. And the 2 police officers also took all the gas masks back. If he could find the gas masks of these alien Beastmen killers, he might be able to get something useful from them. After receiving Cobbard's order, all his subordinates scattered. While protecting their own territory, they collected various gas masks everywhere. Most of the gas masks were scrapped, and even when they were disassembled, there was nothing inside, but this did not make Cobbard lose confidence. He knew very well that important information was not so easy to dig out, so he sent more people to collect gas masks all over Gotham. In addition to sending more people to collect gas masks, Cobbard also sent all the gas masks to testing agencies for inspection. He wants to find something special from these gas masks, and this will determine how much power he can control in the future. Compared to Cobblepot, Gordon was looking worried. Although he and Cobblepot belonged to different camps, as the police of the music world, some informants were still very important. Although he didn't want to have any contact with Cobblepot, as Harvey said, some informants could give him more help, not to mention a guy like Cobblepot who became a gangster boss through conspiracy and trickery. And just recently, Cobbard called him and wanted to trade a piece of information with him. The other party wanted to exchange a favor with him using a video. That video gave him a headache. In the video, 3 Beastman killers wearing gas masks suddenly swelled up and eventually exploded. This is not good news. This means that the guys who created these Beastmen have mastered even more powerful technology. These Beastmen killers who were blown into meat paste due to excessive expansion of their bodies might have been experimental subjects thrown out for testing. In the coming days, more powerful Beastmen may appear in Gotham, and the power currently held by the Gotham Police Department may not be able to stop them. The person behind this deserves to die. Gordon slammed his fist on the table, waking up Harvey who was dozing off at his desk. What's wrong? What happened? Did those Beastmen escape from Arkham Asylum? Harvey asked with a frown after being awakened. Chapter 173. I got a video from Cobblepot, and those Beastmen have become stronger. Hearing Gordon's words, Harvey breathed a sigh of relief and waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, there are 2 vigilantes that have recently appeared in Gotham. They can handle these Beastmen who are no longer human. Everyone in the music industry knows that in the late night of Gotham, two agile police officers like black cats will appear. They will rescue the weak and eliminate the powerful beastmen everywhere. Although in Harvey's eyes, there is no difference between the vigilantes and the beastmen. If we have to say the difference between the two, these two volunteer policemen look more like ordinary humans, at least not like those beastmen, whose bodies are abnormally strong and even their appearances are distorted. But this suggestion did not receive Gordon's support. Although the appearance of business police made Gotham much more stable, it confirmed that everyone had different views on Gotham police. As a policeman in the music world, Gordon would never entrust his own safety to others. That would be irresponsible for his own life. Perhaps we should apply for some special equipment. The weapons recently produced by Wayne Group's weapons department can meet our needs. Harvey, who knew what his partner was thinking, gave a new suggestion. If all the police officers in the Gotham Police Department could get new weapons and equipment, they might be able to deal with these more powerful beast killers. Having received new gifts, the two continued their volunteer police activities, and this time they were obviously more confident. And where the two of them couldn't see, Muen was on the treetop, looking at the two figures going away from afar. Beastmen. Recalling the information provided by Alfred, an idea came to his mind. Perhaps the appearance of these beastmen killers is related to the court of owls hidden in the dark. I wonder how much metal they have. As the words fell, Muen instantly disappeared in a grey mist. Arkham Asylum Dr. Hugo had just finished a lobotomy on a patient today. At this moment, he was standing in front of several huge glass jars filled with green mist. Next to him, a killer dressed as an owl was standing among the frozen corpses, watching Dr. Hugo's actions from afar. My experiments are almost over, and these are going to be my best work yet. Dr. Hugo's words did not move the owl's claws. Its eyes were fixed on several huge glass jars filled with green poisonous gas. What was in the jar was the work that Dr. Hugo had mentioned, the warrior that was modeled after the beastman and recreated using the improved poison gas. Not long after the words fell, the poisonous gas in several glass jars gradually disappeared, revealing the true appearance of the jars. The beastmen in these jars are all strong and sturdy, and they seem to have a higher resistance to poison gas, which also makes the beastmen killers able to withstand more enhancements. In Dr. Hugo's experiments, the beastmen killers in these gas tanks are all elites who survived a large number of his experiments. They are stronger than ordinary beastmen and have higher resistance to damage from poison gas, which allows them to withstand more poison gas and become stronger. It seems that I succeeded. You can take them to try and let me see what kind of power they can exert. After that, he pressed the opening button of the glass jar, and several huge glass jars opened one after another. The beastmen killers in the glass jars all walked out of the glass jars. Looking at these strong beastmen who were shrouded in a dangerous aura, Hugo smiled faintly. He has waited for this moment for too long. As long as he completes this experiment, he will become a partner of the guy who drives these claws and receive more generous research funds. Claws took these enhanced beastmen killers who had just walked out of the glass jars and left Arkham Asylum through the secret passage. Dr. Hugo looked at the scenery outside the window with a smile on his face. Soon, I'll have more research funding. Dr. Hugo was very confident about the beastmen killers who had just walked out of the glass jar. Although there were not many such beastmen, each of them could easily kill a large number of ordinary beastmen. The most important thing is that these beast killers have a device that can release poison gas in their bodies. The device is connected to their hearts. When their heart rate reaches a certain level, the device that releases poison gas will be activated to strengthen their bodies. This means that they don't need to wear special gas masks like the previous beast killers. However, the records of the gas masks have not been deleted by Dr. Hugo. He planned to find an ordinary person with a strong body and carry out special transformation on him so that he could withstand more violent poison gas enhancement. And that gas mask will become a gas mask specially customized for this person, continuously providing him with large amounts of poison gas, turning him into an unstoppable and powerful enemy. Shortly after Claw left with several enhanced beastmen killers, Bruce and Selina began their tour of the music scene. As Gotham's volunteer police, the two men don't care about gains and losses at all. What they really care about are the beastmen killers who are already in hiding. Why is the beastmen killer gone? Although the beastmen killers had hidden very well before, they would still be able to find these guys if they looked carefully. But now, they have walked through more than a dozen blocks and have not found any trace of these beastmen killers. The beastmen killers seemed to have disappeared completely, but Bruce still remembered the three beastmen killers who were fooled. They all wore gas masks containing toxins. It was after they absorbed excessive amounts of poison gas from the gas masks that their bodies swelled wildly and eventually exploded into pools of meat paste. Just as they were thinking about it, they heard faint breathing sounds behind them. If it were someone else, they might not care about it, but Bruce and Selina had both received training from Moon, and they were very alert to everything around them, especially in such a dangerous place. The two men drew out the daggers from their waists and turned to look behind them. As they expected, the orc killers did not disappear, but became more cunning. However, these beastmen killers seemed to be more powerful than the previous ones. Although they did not have gas masks on their faces, the power they burst out was not something an ordinary person could do. Chapter 174. A beastman killer suddenly rushed up and punched them both. Facing the attack of this punch, the two of them bent their knees instantly and hid from the beastman's fist. Boom! The beastman killer's fist landed on the ground, and the ground was smashed into countless pieces in an instant as if it had been hit hard by a metal hammer. Seeing the performance of the beastman killer, Bruce and Selina couldn't help but gasp. The beastman killers before were not as powerful as they are now. Although their strength was also very strong, the most they could do was leave a fist mark on the stone. But this guy just smashed the ground into pieces, turning it into large pieces. You know, this beastman killer is not wearing a gas mask that releases poison gas. Be careful, I feel this guy is different from the ones we met before. As soon as the words fell, the two men swung the daggers in their hands, and rushed towards the beastman killer with all their strength in their combat suits. The two men had absolute confidence in the daggers in their hands, as these were the daggers given to them by Mu-En. Just like Alfred's pistol, this dagger can also exert more powerful power. The two used the fighting skills taught by Mu-En, dodged everywhere nimbly, and with the help of the powerful amplification of their combat suits, made the powerful attacks of the beastman killer all useless. Instead, the two of them used the daggers given to them by Mu-En to start a counterattack against the beastman killer. Although they both use daggers, the fighting techniques they master are completely opposite. Bruce gripped the dagger tightly and launched powerful stabbing and slashing at the beastman killer with a fierce attack. Selina, on the other hand, uses a highly maneuverable attack that is quick and can unleash extremely powerful force in a short period of time. The two cooperated very well. Bruce's dagger burst out with powerful force and pierced through the beastman killer's arm in an instant. Selina's dagger slashed across the beastman's arm, leaving bleeding wounds on his arm. Although the injuries looked serious, for the beastman killer, such injuries could not be compared with what he had suffered in the past. The toxins in his body spread, and as the blood flowed, the toxins spread throughout his body. His internal organs also underwent some special changes under the influence of the toxin. All the internal organs seemed to be strengthened, causing the beastman killer's body to change during the battle. The arm that was pierced by Bruce and cut by Selina was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his body was slowly growing larger. I know where their poison gas is. Seeing this situation, Bruce instantly understood where the poison gas of this more powerful beastman killer was placed. Originally he thought that the beastman killer just didn't wear a gas mask filled with poison gas. Now it seems that it's not that the beastman killer didn't wear a gas mask. It's because the poison gas is in their bodies. The poison gas will erupt during their battle and continuously strengthen their bodies. But this won't be a problem for us. Selina said with a smile, then swung the dagger again and killed the beastman. She is more agile in her actions, so it is better to leave this kind of attack to her. Be careful! Bruce suddenly shouted loudly, and several kunai flew out of his hands. Ding ding ding! All those kunai were blocked by a guy who looked like an owl, swinging his dagger. Behind the owl-like guy stood several equally sturdy beastman killers. Faced with these beastman killers, Selina had to give up attacking the beastman killer in front of her and retreated to Bruce's side. The two of them were alert to the beastman killers around them. It seems that he is the one who ordered these beastman killers to attack us. As long as we catch him, we will know who is behind them. Although this is what they said, the most important thing for them now is to break away from this encirclement. There is more than one beastman killer around. If they are not careful, they will become prey of these beastman killers and the owl-like man. Teacher's weapons will be used later. Now is a good time to test the extent to which the combat suit can enhance our strength. Bruce whispered, his hands on his waist, and several more kunai flew out of his hands. This scene made Mu-En, who was standing on the roof in the distance, nod his head with satisfaction. His two students had a deeper understanding of combat, and they did not act rashly because of the enhancements provided by their combat uniforms. This is good news. After all, the two can now use their own strength reasonably and are not blinded by the power brought by the combat suits, making them arrogant. However, in addition to Bruce and the other two, Moon was also concerned about the Claw standing between the Beastmen killers. The last time I saw Claw was a few years ago. Bruce was not the same as he is now, and Selena was just a nimble homeless teenager. Now the situation of the two can be said to have undergone earth-shaking changes, and they have become qualified fighters. It's really interesting to put the three of them together. Apart from the Beastman killer beside them, the images of the three people represent three different situations. The Claws are subordinates of the Court of Owls. They are the butchers of those in the Court of Owls. They shuttle through the darkness and solve all kinds of troubles for those in the Court of Owls. As for Selena, her nickname was very obvious, and at this moment she was like a vigilant black cat. As for Bruce, the current Bruce does not have the outfit he will have in the future. Right now, he looks like a strong Black Panther. Facing Bruce and Selena, Claw did not act rashly. Of course he would kill these two people, but before that, he had to confirm what Bruce and Selena's abilities were. After all, Bruce and Selena's vigilante actions made Claw realize that the two were not weak. He had to confirm their strength before he could take action with full preparation. The surrounding Beastmen killers all rushed towards the two of them. Facing the attacks of these obviously more powerful Beastmen, Bruce and Selena stood back to back, guarding against the attacking Beastmen killers. Remember to be careful later. If you feel like you can't hold on any longer, use that weapon. Ha, I know what to do without you telling me. As soon as the words fell, the two men burst out with all their strength, the daggers in their hands drew a white light in the air, and killed the Beastman killer. Now the only thing they could do was to break through. With daggers waving in their hands, they rushed into the encirclement of the Beastmen killers in an instant. Butterfly Shadow Knife. The two men used the same moves, and the dagger in their hands appeared and disappeared like a butterfly fluttering its wings. Chapter 175. This was a special move that Muen taught them, but the two had never successfully used it. After all, this move requires extremely strong power to release, and it was not until they received the combat uniforms given to them by Muen that they barely met the minimum requirements to use this move. Boom! Boom! The dagger in the hands of the two men burst out with powerful force and stabbed into the ground fiercely. The powerful force will cause the dagger to explode with a violent impact the moment it hits the ground. Those Beastmen killers who rushed over were all blown away by this powerful impact. The surroundings were instantly in chaos. The bodies of these Beastmen killers were very heavy, and even though they were blown away, they did not suffer any damage. On the contrary, the toxin in the body was activated by the strong impact. Not only were the Beastmen killers closest to the two not injured, but they directly tore through their clothes under the strengthening of the toxin, and killed them. Hey, they are still too immature. Muen noticed the performance of the two. He knew that they wanted to use the airwave created by the heavy blow of the butterfly shadow blade to break through, but they obviously underestimated these more powerful Beastmen killers. As he spoke, all the razor butterflies that were originally surrounding him flew towards the two of them. Although the razor butterfly's protective effect on him is not great, for Bruce and Selena, the protective effect of the razor butterfly will be greatly enhanced. When the razor butterfly flew to their side, Bruce and Selena's faces lit up with joy. They knew very well how powerful the razor butterfly was. When they were being chased before, they relied on the razor butterfly left by Muen to protect their safety. And that was just one razor butterfly. Now they have 6 razor butterflies around them. Plus with the power they gain from equipping their combat suits, these Beastmen killers are nothing to be feared. Seeing the razor butterfly boosted their confidence, they got up from the ground again and rushed towards the weaker part of the encirclement. Rip Spine. The dagger drew a white light in the air and stabbed hard at a Beastman. As he moved, the razor butterflies surrounding him also flew towards the Beastman killer at high speed. Chi chi chi! The Beastman killer's body was instantly pierced by the razor butterfly, and blood flowed out of the wound. Bruce's dagger directly penetrated the Beastman's body and shattered the Beastman killer's spine. The severe damage to his body made the Beastman killer instantly furious, and the poison device in his body began to work frantically. The originally bright red blood gradually turned green. His blood turned into a horrible poison, spreading outward in the air. Dong dong dong! The Beastman killer, whose spine was shattered, quickly expanded his arms and slammed into the ground with half of his body paralyzed. The dust on the ground and the toxins in the air greatly restricted Bruce and Selena. As a last resort, the two men changed the masks of their combat uniforms to a fully covering state to block all the toxins that filled the air. Be careful to protect yourself. These toxins pose a great threat to us. Bruce explained as he reminded Selina. He had seen the test report on the gas mask before, and the toxins there were extremely harmful to the human body. Just as the two were preparing to launch a surprise attack, Claw stepped out from the large number of beastmen killers, holding two long swords in their hands, which all reflected their fighting style. Looking at this owl-like killer, Selina and Bruce looked at each other, their expressions looking particularly solemn. This owl-like killer was not weak. The kunao thrown by Bruce before was easily blocked by him. You know, that was the kunao Bruce shot after he got the enhanced combat suit. The kunao was so powerful that it could easily penetrate a concrete load-bearing wall. However, that sharp claw easily blocked the powerful kunao, which is not something an ordinary human can do. Be careful with this guy, I think he's dangerous. Selina warned. She is naturally sensitive to danger, and even if she didn't possess such powerful powers in the past, she could live easily in Gotham. Now that she has mastered this powerful force, she still feels the threat of the claws. Glancing at the beastmen killers rushing around, Bruce said, I think we can use the weapons our teacher gave us now. With their current strength, it would be very difficult to deal with the beastmen killers around them and the claw not far away, unless they can use the special weapons given to them by Mu Engzin. As the words were spoken, Bruce and Selina took out the special weapons that Moon gave them. Each of them held a sword and a stick, and as energy was injected into their combat suits, their weapons all changed their appearance. The rapier in Bruce's hand emitted waves of space, while Selina held a long whip that emitted blue energy. Both weapons have the same characteristic, which is that they release a large amount of sparks. Facing the attacking beastmen killers, Selina swung the whip in her hand and lashed at several of them fiercely. Bang bang! Almost all the beastmen killers who rushed forward were whipped away by Bruce. This long whip with special power was extremely suitable for encounters. Under the cover of Selina's long whip, the rapier in Bruce's hand cut through fleeting spatial cracks in the air. The space around Bruce seemed to be torn apart and looked like it would explode at any time. Ding ding ding! Facing Bruce's attack, Claw used his two swords to resist. But although his weapon was good, it was not good enough to compare with the special weapon in Bruce's hand. Bruce only used one sword to instantly cut off the double swords in Sharp Claw's hands. A rapier with spatial abilities is very powerful, at least in most battles. Nothing can be said about the power of that weapon. The moment he saw his double swords being cut off, Sharp Claws retreated rapidly, and he used the handles of the swords in his hands as hidden weapons and threw them towards Bruce. Let's try what the teacher taught us. He had long wanted to use the fighting skills that Mu-En taught him with this rapier, and now was the right time. His body rushed towards the claws like a spiral. The claw, who had lost his equipment, was not too worried. He pulled out two daggers from the scabbard at his waist and tried to block Bruce's attack. Hey! Bruce easily cut the dagger in half, which made him laugh. He thought that the sword Mu-En gave him was really perfect. He actually destroyed the metal weapons twice in a row without expending much effort. Chapter 176. The weapon broke again, making Lizwa alert. The rapier in this guy's hand was sharper than he had expected. But when he thought of the order he had received, Claw once again drew a dagger from his back, ready to drag Bruce here and wait for support from other claws. He knew very well that he alone was no match for this volunteer policeman. That weapon was beyond everyone's expectations. Such a weapon should not exist in this world. Bruce was indeed extremely excited. It was the first time for him to use such a powerful force. The rapier in his hand was like the legendary weapon of the gods. Not to mention cutting hair with a blow, even the hardest steel could be cut with one swing of the sword. The four weapons that were cut off in the claw's hands were the best evidence of him. When his strength was combined with this magic weapon, the power that could be unleashed was beyond everyone's cognition. It turns out that teachers hold this kind of power. Although he knew that Mu-En's power was more than twice as strong as what he possessed now, he always felt that he had already glimpsed a corner of Mu-En's power. As long as he persisted, he might be able to master a power as strong as Mu-En in the future. Just as he was thinking about it, the rapier in his hand suddenly thrust out, making a sharp hissing sound in the air, and killed towards the sharp claw. The powerful strength allowed Bruce to easily unleash the various moves taught by Moon, and the rapier drew streaks of light in the air. Ding 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 ding! The moment Sharp Claw's weapon touched Bruce's rapier, it broke into countless pieces, and Sharp Claw used these flying pieces to cover Bruce's body. This guy is so strong, Claw looked at Bruce in shock. Those streaks of light that Bruce had just stabbed out were no joke. If one was not careful, one would be stabbed by the powerful rapier, and at best be seriously injured or die on the spot. But at this time, Bruce treated Claw as his sparring partner. He wanted to use all his moves to test the results of his training over this period of time. Since Bruce attacked again, the Claw no longer defended himself with the dagger as before, because he had realized that his weapon was no match for the rapier in Bruce's hand. Instead of letting his weapons continue to be scrapped, it is better to attack from a distance. Just hold Bruce back. Soon, the other claws will arrive and they will attack together. I don't believe Bruce can withstand their combined attack. The fight was in full swing on Bruce's side, but it was a different scene on Selina's side. The power of those beastmen killers was much stronger than before, and they also had devices in their bodies that continuously released toxins, making them stronger in the fierce battle. Just like now, their bodies have expanded a lot, and the power they can burst out is also stronger than before. The beastmen killers were constantly attacking, and wherever they were, the ground had been smashed into pieces by them, but Selina was easily dodging the attacks of these beastmen killers. He has understood that although these beastmen killers seem powerful, they have a fatal flaw. The more powerful they are, the less capable their brains are. This fighting method of exchanging intelligence for strength is a good choice for most battles, but when facing enemies of equal strength, mindless fighting will become their weakness and can be easily exploited by opponents. And now, he was doing just that, constantly angering these guys and making the toxins in their bodies explode more violently. Although this would make their strength even stronger, it would be too easy for a group of opponents with little IQ to defeat them, not to mention that he had the energy whip that Mu-En gave her. Let me see how powerful you are. Selina swung the whip in her hand and lashed at the beastmen killers who were attacking her. Snap! 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 With a few crisp sounds, the attacking beastmen killers were directly pulled back, and those killers who were pulled back did have a lot of blood marks on their bodies. The energy whip is not so easy to deal with. In order to keep the energy of the combat suit sufficient, Selina did not overuse the energy whip. If she used it with all her strength, these whips could definitely cut them in half. However, even so, the damage caused by the energy whip is still not something that ordinary people can bear. Although the beastman killer's physical fitness is far superior to that of ordinary people, he also suffered considerable damage under this energy whip. This also caused the toxin devices in the beastman killer's bodies to begin to release toxins continuously. Their bodies grew rapidly under the amplification of the toxins. Their shapes became distorted and they looked like deformed monsters. Because of the influence of the poison, the beastman killer's sanity began to decline rapidly, and they all turned into ferocious beasts that acted on instinct. Boom! A beastman killer clenched his fists and slammed the ground hard. The huge force destroyed the ground and the vibration affected the surrounding environment. The wall closest to the beastman killer collapsed directly in the violent vibration, revealing several terrified people in the room. Ah, monster! A person screamed, attracting the attention of the beastmen killers. These beastmen killers, who had completely lost their minds, now only wanted to kill everyone around them, and these ordinary people became their best targets. Damn, are these guys crazy? Selina thought to herself. Originally she could have used the power of these guys to easily deal with them all, but now these beast killers had smashed the wall and saw the terrified ordinary people in the room, and it was easy to imagine what would happen next. Sure enough, the next second, all the beastmen killers scattered, punched through the wall, and started killing. These ordinary people were the targets that could easily satisfy them. It is suggested that the beastmen killer start attacking ordinary people. Selina no longer retains the power of her combat suit. The razor butterfly guarding her can provide her with sufficient defense. The energy whip in his hand exuded an even more powerful force, and the sparks on it began to fly everywhere, emitting powerful power fluctuations. Is Serena starting too? Mu-En looked at the energy whip that was flying sparks and spoke softly. He originally thought that Selina would not use such power. After all, as a person who has been wandering outside for many years, Selina is more cautious in using power. Now, like Bruce, he has increased the power of the energy whip by more than half. As he spoke, Mu-En turned his attention to the distance again. He had already sensed a number of agile guys, and he was not unfamiliar with these people at all, because those people, like Bruce's opponents, were all claws of owls. It seems that Bruce and Selina's performance has made them panic, but I'm here. If you want to kill Bruce and Selina, you will have to pay a price. Chapter 177. A shuriken appeared in Mu-En's hand, emitting a little cold light under the moonlight. He stood on a high place, quietly watching the claws that were approaching. The court of owls, are these little birds already eager to be exposed? As he spoke, Shuriken flew out of Moon's hand and shot towards those claws. He did not choose to destroy all of them. After all, whether it was the Court of Owls or others, they were all things Bruce had to face. These people would grow with Bruce and turn Bruce into a truly brave and fearless warrior. The shuriken split into two in the air, and the moment it approached the claw, it flew towards the claw as if it was controlled. Tisk! Tisk! The two unlucky claws were nailed to the wall by the powerful shuriken before they even got close to the scene. After all, the claws were reinforced by amber gold and Dionysus factor. These two special metals greatly improved their body's recovery ability. Even if they were nailed to the wall by the powerful force of the shuriken, they could still endure the pain, tear their bodies apart, and escape from the shuriken. The blood dyed their bodies red, and the wounds on their bodies looked even more horrific. Although their recovery ability is not as abnormal as Logan's, one can vaguely feel that their wounds are recovering quickly. And beneath the wound, there was a faint metallic luster. The attack on two claws made the other claws more alert. They knew very well that the ones who attacked the two claws were not the two volunteer policemen, but there was a third party hidden in the dark watching them. You seem quite cautious, but unfortunately, you are too weak. The only thing that could attract him about these claws was the amber gold and Dionysus factor in their bodies. However, the last time he grabbed a claw, the two metals contained in that claw were too little. If we look at the amount of the two metals contained in that claw, even so many claws cannot provide him with one eye essence. As a result, he had even less interest in these claws, and his only hope was to find information about the Court of Owls from the memories of these claws. Without attacking these claws, Mayne went straight to where Bruce and Selena were. This place had been turned into ruins by those violent beast killers. Even car sirens could be heard in the distance. There were only various screams of terror. The destruction of the houses frightened many people hiding at home. Even though they lived in Gotham, they still couldn't accept facing such a terrifying and hideous monster. After all, this is much more terrifying than the gang shootouts on the streets. They all saw with their own eyes that a monster could smash the hard rock of the wall into pieces with one punch. As more and more people fled, the beastmen killers began to spread to other parts of the city. Squeak! A car hit a beastman killer hard, knocking him away. In the car, Gordon and Harvey were frowning, looking at the beastman killer who was chasing ordinary people everywhere. Maybe you're right, these guys are getting too extreme, Harvey said softly. As a policeman who has always wanted to live a stable life, Gotham's current appearance has undoubtedly broken his impression of Gotham. Now even staying in the police station may not be safe enough. As he was speaking, the beastman killer who was knocked away climbed up from the ground and roared at the car. Roar! The violent collision of the car made the beastman killer instantly furious. He stomped his feet on the ground and crushed it. Then, the beastman killer rushed towards the car. He wanted to smash the iron box. Seeing the beast killers rushing towards him again, Gordon slammed the accelerator of the car and rushed towards the beast killers. He would show no mercy to these beast killers who were hunting ordinary people. Harvey, who was standing by, took out his pistol and fired continuously at the beast killer. Bang bang! Flames spewed from the muzzle of the gun, and bullets burst out from it, hitting the bodies of the crazy beastmen killers hard. Although the power of the gun was very good, the damage caused by Harvey's pistol to the beastman killer was too limited. Most of the time, it only left bloody holes on the beastman killer's body. It wouldn't be long before the bullets were squeezed out of the beastman killer's body by his muscles. The damn pistols have no effect on them. Harvey cursed, turned around and took out a shotgun from the back seat of the car, and loaded a round into the shotgun. The pistol doesn't work on you, so try this. Bang bang! With two shots from the shotgun, the beastman killer's body was directly blasted through by the powerful force of the shotgun, and a blood hole appeared on the beastman killer's body that could see the opposite side. Ha! Shotguns are really useful. Looking at the beastman killer lying on the ground, Harvey laughed. He really still liked to use such powerful weapons. Stop grinning like an idiot, we have to hurry over there, something must have gone wrong. Gordon continued driving, he had to get rid of the source of the beastmen. Along the way, the two encountered many beastmen killers. They had all lost their rationality. Although they looked like humans, in fact, they were more like strong beasts. My God, how many people have been killed? Harvey sighed as he looked at the beastmen killers that kept appearing. Whether they are ordinary people being hunted by the beast killers or these beast killers, they are all living lives. Ordinary people are hunted down by beastmen, and those beastmen are controlled by the dark hands hidden behind the scenes. They are also transformed by using ordinary people. No matter who they are, it is the same tragedy. Don't sigh. There's no time for that now. After getting Gordon's reminder, Harvey picked up the shotgun in his hand and shot at the oncoming beastman. Bang! A shot from the shotgun hit the beastman killer's head, smashing it directly. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere, adding a touch of horror to the surroundings. And when they took action, all the gang bosses, including Cobblepot and the people they sent out, all received a message that the beastman killers who were supposed to be eliminated by the vigilantes were now carrying out crazy destruction all over Gotham. Those beastmen really ran out. Cobblepot looked out the window. Gordon, what should you do this time? Having said that, Cobbert turned and looked at his subordinates standing behind him. Tell your men to protect our place. If you encounter a lone beastman, no matter what method you use, capture him. Chapter 178. The whole Gotham was in chaos. Residents hiding in their houses took out knives, axes, and guns, and looked at their doors with worried faces. And on the streets, more people were screaming and running away. There were more and more beastmen appearing around, and they had to hide from the beastman killers. After all, not everyone carries self-defense weapons when they go out, even in the more chaotic Gotham. Under the influence of the toxins in their bodies, the beastman killers continuously increase their strength, saliva drips from their mouths, and they look like a ferocious beast. The ground and vehicles were quickly destroyed by the attacks of these beastman killers, and many parts of the city were on fire. Boom! Harvey held the shotgun and pulled the trigger at a beastman killer who was about to attack the civilians. The broken shrapnel spread out instantly, blowing up the head of the strong beastman killer. What? Seeing the beastman killer with his head smashed in front of him, the attacked citizen screamed and ran towards Harvey in horror. Being a good policeman is not a bad choice. Harvey laughed as he loaded the shotgun, while behind him, Gordon was holding 2 pistols, standing guard around him. Now the streets were blocked by smashed cars, and now they had no choice but to leave the cars and walk towards the area where the fighting was taking place. We haven't even entered the core area yet, and we've already reached this point. I wonder what will happen in the core area where the beastman killer appears. The beastman killers they encountered along the way became stronger and stronger. At the beginning, they could easily kill them by hitting their vital points with a pistol. But now, he could only barely kill a beastman killer through continuous attacks with 2 pistols. Of course, the shotgun in Harvey's hand was also affected to a certain extent. Even though you can still kill the beastman now, this is based on attacking the beastman killer's vital points. If it was an ordinary attack, Harvey could at most create a bloody hole in the beastman killer's body, making the beastman killer, who was already difficult to deal with, even more violent. The reason why they knew it so clearly was because they had encountered such a situation once before. The shotgun fired a shot at the beastman killer's chest. Although the beastman was beaten to a bloody pulp, it failed to kill him like before. Instead, it made the guy's body stronger, and he could smash the ground to pieces with just a single punch. If Harvey hadn't reacted quickly enough and the second shot hadn't directly smashed the opponent's head, they might not be sure they would still be alive now. Looking at the resident running towards him screaming, Gordon walked up with 2 guns in hand. Don't worry, you are safe now. Do you know what is ahead? With Gordon's comfort, the citizen's panic was relieved. Looking at Gordon and Harvey who were fully armed, the citizen breathed a sigh of relief and said, I don't know what happened in the innermost part, but I know that the 2 volunteer police officers who appeared these days are fighting those monsters. Although they only saw Bruce and Selina fighting from a distance, the citizens were grateful from the bottom of their hearts to these 2 volunteer police officers who had only appeared recently. If it weren't for those 2 powerful vigilantes, there would be no way they could escape from those beastmen killers. Especially the agile warrior like a black cat, the long whip in her hand controlled many beastmen over there. Unfortunately, there were only 2 people on the other side. Even if they tried their best, they could not intercept all the beastmen killers. Are they the 2 volunteer policemen who came out recently? Gordon and Harvey looked at each other. They were very curious about these 2 volunteer policemen who didn't want any salary. You can run from this direction. We have cleared out all the beastmen here, Gordon said to the citizen, and then looked at Harvey on the side. It seems we have to speed up. After all, they are the real police. If the responsibility of protecting the city is given to 2 volunteer policemen, then there will be no need for these Gotham police to exist. Bruce, who was fighting the Claw, made rapid progress, and his mastery of the rapier quickly improved to a higher level. However, fighting at full strength all the time caused Bruce's combat suit to consume energy very quickly. Before long, 60% of the energy had been consumed. Feeling the vibration coming from the wrist controller, Bruce disconnected the energy injected into the rapier. In an instant, the vibrating space around the rapier disappeared, and even the sparks that were flying around disappeared without a trace. Seeing that the rapier in Bruce's hand no longer had any strange effect, Sharp Claw, who was trying his best to resist, instantly drew out the dagger at his waist and swung it towards Bruce. Hey! The rapier made a deceptive dash to block the dagger of the claw, then turned and stabbed out, piercing the claw's armor on the spot. Even if you don't use that power, you are still no match for me. Bruce regained his composure and spoke calmly, but the rapier in his hand did not stop. He exerted force on his feet, leaped up, and rushed towards the sharp claws, swinging the rapier in the air in an instant. The Day of Judgment. The sword flashed, accompanied by bright red blood, and passed through the air. The clawed arm flew into the air and then fell to the ground. It's not that Bruce doesn't want to kill this owl-like opponent, it's just that the reaction speed of the claws is too fast. He was able to cut off one of the opponent's arms, which was the best effort he could make. How on earth did this guy do it? Can an ordinary human burst out with such powerful strength? Bruce was very confused. He could exert his current strength because he was equipped with a combat suit and gained the enhanced power from the combat suit. But this claw is obviously just an ordinary human. Why can it exert such powerful force? Whether it is reaction speed, strength, or other aspects, they have reached the limits of what normal humans can achieve. Although they are not as good as him who has received the enhancement from the combat suit, when facing other people, they can easily deal with most of the opponents. Although he was thinking about where Sharp Claw's strength came from, he still swung the rapier in his hand and attacked all the vital points on Sharp Claw's body. Bruce, there are more people coming. While attacking the beastmen killers around her, Selena told Bruce about her discovery that she had discovered the approaching claws. Although they were all shocked by Muen's previous attack, they still tried hard to complete the orders of those people. Seeing more and more beastmen killers attacking, Selena swung the energy whip in her hand with all her strength. She was ready to get rid of these guys first. Snapped. The large group of beastmen killers that attacked were all blown away by this whip. On their bodies, there were wounds that were bleeding and had flesh and blood all over them. In some, one could even see broken bones and internal organs. Chapter 179. This attack caused severe damage to many beastmen killers. The toxins in their bodies were surging wildly and their sanity was rapidly fading. Soon, more beastmen killers with twisted bodies crawled up from the ground. However, they did not take the initiative to attack Selena. They had completely lost their minds and no longer distinguished between friend and foe. Compared to Selena, who was farther away, their companions were the best targets. For a moment, the surrounding beastmen killers were caught in a melee. The powerful strength they gained from the enhancement of the toxin made their attacks extremely violent. A beastman killer suddenly swung a punch and hit his companion hard on the head. Before the other party could react, he kicked his companion hard and kicked him away. The beastman killer who was kicked away was not a pushover either. The sudden attack made him extremely violent. He kicked his legs hard and rushed towards the beastman killer, attacking him like a flesh cannonball. This situation occurred in more than one place. Almost all the beastmen killers were attacking each other. The situation before her did not surprise Selena. After all, she had intended from the very beginning to let these guys kill each other. The attack just now launched with all his strength just wiped out all the sanity of these beastmen killers. What she was facing now was just a group of crazy beasts, which was nothing to worry about. What she and Bruce really needed to worry about now were those guys who were dressed exactly like Bruce's opponents. Looking at the energy whip in her hand, Selena hesitated for a moment, then retracted the whip and turned it into a short stick and carried it on her back. The use of the energy whip consumes the energy of the combat suit. They don't know how long the battle will last, so it would be good to save some energy. Pulling out a dagger from her waist, Selena looked at the attacking claws with a wary look. After being reminded by Selena, Bruce also realized that he had to speed up now. The rapier launched attacks continuously, while his other hand reached for the dagger at his waist. The dagger that Moon gave to him and Selena was really sharp. Now he was ready to use two different weapons to quickly get rid of the sharp claw in front of him. Ding ding ding! The rapier's horizontal slashing, vertical chopping, and stabbing movements were constantly displayed in his hand, and amid the continuous attacks of the rapier, the dagger in his other hand was waiting for an opportunity, ready to deliver a fatal blow at any time. Bruce's continuous attacks, coupled with his arm being cut off and his claws losing too much blood, were completely suppressed in the battle, and he could only try his best to resist the sword shadows that kept attacking. Hey! With a crisp sound, Bruce and Claw's figures staggered, and Claw blocked Bruce's rapier. But he failed to block the dagger in Bruce's other hand. His neck was cut by Bruce's sharp dagger, and a red line of blood appeared on his neck. Then he fell straight to the ground, with his head and body split in two. Shaking off the blood on the dagger, Bruce turned and stood with Selena. Next, they were about to face more sharp claws. "How do you feel?" Selena asked. "I'm fine, but my battlesuit may not last long." Because of the previous battle, Bruce's combat suit has consumed a huge amount of energy, so he must fight quickly. As the two were on guard, the claws came closer. They stopped talking and focused their whole body and soul on guarding against these rapidly approaching claws. Has the space here been disturbed by Bruce?" Looking at Bruce and Selena who were on guard, Moon frowned. He felt a strange spatial fluctuation, as if something was using this fluctuating space to move. He no longer paid attention to the two of them, and focused his attention on the space around him. Slap! With a snap of his fingers, a spark burst out from his fingertips, and then condensed into a small portal in front of him, connecting him to the space, emitting strange fluctuations. On the other side of the portal, the ground was dark red, and an unpleasant smell of sulfur wafted out of it. In the distance, you can even see some devil-like creatures with double horns on their heads and dark red skin, screaming with bloodthirsty smiles on their faces. "Is this hell?" Looking at the situation on the other side of the portal, Muen raised his eyebrows slightly. He knew that there was hell in this world, and even heaven existed, but he didn't expect that Bruce would use the amplitude crystal that integrated the spell circuit of the portal to connect the surrounding space to hell. Now, many little demons have gathered in hell, and they seem to be preparing to appear on Earth through the fluctuating space. Speaking of which, exorcism seems to be the specialty of some scumbag, right? Closing the portal casually, he suddenly remembered the exorcist who would do anything to exorcise demons, the heavy smoker Constantine. As an exorcist who masters a large amount of powerful magic, this guy uses his brain the most, and the unlucky ones are always the people around him. In Constantine's opinion, using magic comes at a price, no matter what kind of spell it is. So he often relies on lying and cheating to get out of trouble, and the objects of his cheating include humans, monsters, and even demons and angels. Well, forget it. That guy is not a good guy. If we call him over, Gotham will probably become even more chaotic. Instead of looking for Constantine, it would be better for him to solve the problem himself, so as to avoid Constantine bringing greater disaster. Ding ding ding. Bruce and his men were fighting fiercely, and not far away from them, the battlefield of the Beastmen killers became even more chaotic. Most of the surrounding houses were demolished during their battle, and smoke and dust filled the air, covering the entire area. Gotham's good detective Gordon is here too. Gordon and Harvey walked into his perception range. The two men were very cautious, with their guns ready to fire at any time. "Then I can only wish you good luck." He had to first guard against the increasingly intense spatial fluctuations. It wouldn't be long before the demons in hell would open the spatial channel and appear in Gotham. Hell, countless demons gathered here. They felt the spatial fluctuations from other worlds, and not long ago, a smell from the human world made them addicted. The demons gathered together, and the soul breath from the human world made them extremely fanatical. Soul. A living human soul. A demon roared. He could hardly bear it any longer. His saliva dripped onto the dark red ground, a puff of green smoke came out of the dark red rock, and a deep pit was corroded out of the rock. It's not that they don't know that there are passages to the human world, but these passages are extremely dangerous places. Without strong strength, wanting to pass through those passages is simply gambling with your own life. But now, they have found a new channel, and the continuous spatial fluctuations have also made the demons certain that this channel is more stable than all the channels they know. Chapter 180. It's almost done. Soon we can rush into the human world and have a feast. A demon shouted that he could already imagine the happy life in the human world, which would become a paradise for low and middle level demons like them. Click! A crack suddenly appeared in the wildly fluctuating space. A light blue light was revealed on the hell side, while a red light appeared in Gotham. Then the light became brighter and brighter, and finally revealed the true face of the person on the opposite side. A new passage was opened, and this unusual situation made Bruce stop. What is this? Looking at the monster behind the red light and the smell of sulfur emanating from it, Bruce seemed a little dazed, but his steps did not stop. Almost instinctively, he dodged all the attacks from the sharp claws. What you saw was actually hell. Along with the sound, a blue energy wave like water waves quickly passed through these claws, and shackles appeared instantly, binding all the claws. All the claws were no longer able to move, they couldn't even shake the shackles. The claws didn't know who was speaking, but Bruce and Selina knew very well that it was their teacher Moon. Moon, transformed into Hero Exorcist, walked up to the two of them, holding an incinerator that radiated energy like a flail. Teacher, You guys did a good job, but leave this to me. You guys take care of these guys. If there are any little ghosts that escaped from hell, you guys have to help clean them up. As he spoke, Mu-En waved the incinerator and began the energy gathering ceremony. Energy Incinerator Mu-En guided the energy of the armor into the incinerator, and the energy of the incinerator became more and more concentrated, and the light emitted became brighter and brighter. Finally, at the moment when the demons from hell launched a charge on Gotham, Mu-En waved the incinerator in his hand and used the condemnation binding on the charging army of demons. Before the demons could rush out of the passage, waves of energy from the blame and binding began to roll forward from the ground. The demons at the front were all bound by shackles and locked in place, unable to move. However, this did not affect other demons. The influence of condemnation was limited in scope. Although it would gradually increase as they advanced, it was still not possible to bind all the demons. The demons behind rushed up and rushed towards the passage. This density is really suitable. As he spoke, Mu-En's arm turned into Volt. A flash of lightning shot out, the demons rushing towards them were pierced by the powerful electric current. The terrifying electric current demons continued to spread among the group, and in a blink of an eye, the entire passage was turned into an electric current tunnel. This scene scared Bruce and Selina. Originally they thought they might have gotten a glimpse of the teacher's strength, but now it seems that even if their strength was doubled, it would still not be as good as the tiny bit of power the teacher has displayed. This is the power of the teacher? It's really scary. Looking at the passage filled with electric light, Bruce sighed. However, he wanted to experience the power of Hero Exorcist more. When they were being chased by the Beastman Killer, he saw Mu-En transformed into Ash Blade of Ashes. The force that was divided into three and turned into a shadow assassin-like force made him think that Mu-En was a powerful ninja. But now he saw Hero Exorcist again, this one looked like the armor of a clergyman. Could it be that Mu-En's previous career was the legendary judge in the church? After all, he was a teenager in adolescence, and he would always fantasize about things that were rumored. However, Mu-En ignored the two of them. His incinerator released a large amount of energy lines to connect these demons. As a large number of demons died in the electric current, energy waves spread out from the incinerator, dissipating all the energy guided by the energy gathering ritual. The control wristbands on Bruce and Selina's arms lit up instantly, and the energy on them showed that the energy had reached 100%. Our combat uniforms. The two looked at each other with incredible expressions on their faces. Don't be so surprised. This is released by extracting the life energy of those demons. Now that you two have enough energy, act quickly. After receiving Mu-En's instructions, the two of them took out their own special weapons. Bruce increased the energy injected into the rapier to its maximum power, and the spatial fluctuations on the sword became more obvious. Selina did the same thing. The energy whips around her continued to spread, and the light of the energy whips illuminated the surroundings. The two men used their weapons with all their strength, and the energy devices on their arms kept flashing. The energy consumption of fully activating the weapons is simply too great, so Mu-En can replenish the energy for the two of them, otherwise their combat suits will completely run out of energy in a short time. The two men attacked the crazy beastmen killers around them. Now they could fully utilize their equipment, which greatly enhanced their destructive power. Snort Bruce burst out with all his strength, wielding the rapier in his hand, and rushed towards the beastmen killers in one direction. The rapier with spatial power has amazing destructive power. As Bruce swung it, it easily cut off the beastman's body. Selina's energy whip was not far behind. Mu-En continued to replenish their energy, allowing her to use the energy whip without any worries. Recalling the huge damage caused by Mu-En's previous energy whip, Selina couldn't help but feel eager to try it. Now that she had almost unlimited energy, she might be able to replicate Mu-En's feat. Waving the long whip in his hand, he lashed at the beastmen killers in the other direction, and the energy whip drew a bright fan in the air. Almost in an instant, all the beastmen killers were whipped away. Only a few beastmen killers at the end of the energy whip were inevitably cut off by the rapidly sliding long whip. It's barely a success. The next step is practice. There are not many opportunities to use the energy whip so recklessly, so she must master Muen's move as soon as possible. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly there was a gunshot outside, which made Selena's face change drastically. The place where the gunshot came from was where the beastmen killers she had knocked away fell. Come with me to rescue people. After shouting to Bruce, Selena waved the energy whip and rushed towards the place where the gunshots came from. On the opposite side, Harvey and Gordon were frantically attacking the beastman killer who had just crawled up from the ground in front of them. Damn it, these beastmen are getting stronger. Harvey cursed loudly and fired more bullets from the shotgun in his hand, repelling the beastman killer who was rushing towards him. These beastmen were obviously not the same trash as before. Although their bodies could not completely resist bullets, they could rely on their strong recovery ability to repair the wounds caused by guns.